Good morning, all of you, and good morning, everybody online. Perfect. Anshi, Aman, Ashish, Pratagya, and Rajvanshi. Perfect. Pratyaya, sorry. Okay. So today we'll start off with economics. We'll cover up on things. तो पहले कुछ चीजें मैं आपको बता देता हूँ, which I keep talking to all the batches. So number one, when it comes to the source of material, first of all, we will be two people teaching you. I will be teaching you, and Reddy sir will be teaching you. But and you will have around 40 to 45 classes on economics, approximately between that. But out of that, around 28, 27 classes, you will have to live with me only. So we begin from here and we'll go thereafter. So when it comes to what material you will be using the class discussions, whatever we discuss with you in the classroom. We will give you dictations. Apart from that, you will be using the marked portions of next IAS book. All right, marked portions. वो book बहुत मोटी सी है, उसको मैंने थोड़ा पतला किया है portions mark करके. So I will be giving you will be shared those marked portions. The office will share it with you. So do the marked portions of next IAS book. Along with that, do the class discussion. Apart from that, whatever current affairs is needed and so on, we will give you the practice. So don't worry about that. NCRT is covered in the class discussion and the book, so you don't need to read NCRT separately. Please don't do that. It's a needless, repetition of work. So for study material part, again I repeat, follow the class discussion. Number two, follow the book that we give you and the marked portions of the book. That will be sufficient. Secondly, initially, like those of you who don't come from economics background, even for sometimes those of you who do come, as long as you have not done a master's kind of, the articles in newspapers can at times become a little tricky and you may not be able to follow them. Take them normal. As we keep guiding you and as we have around 10 odd classes together, like 8-10 classes of mine on 4-5 classes of Reddy sir, you will be able to gather what's happening in newspapers. So don't worry about that at all. In case it is trouble right now, you can easily not read it. Also, the business page of newspaper is not required. So in that case, if you skip the business page, you will not lose anything, except for maybe some article that you see on infrastructure or some changes in the rules that are brought about by RBI. But all that also you will get only after we have taught you. Unless you have not been taught, it will be trouble. So the point I'm trying to make is, do not spend a lot of time doing things which you don't understand. Focus more on doing things which you do. All right. So that is the other advice that I would give you. Also, when I teach you, I assume that nobody has done any economics in life. So we will start right from scratch. We will begin with what is economy, what is economics, those kind of things, so that everybody is in synchronization with what has to be done. In case there is anything that you would like to ask and all, do not hesitate at all in the classroom. आप क्लास में अपना सवाल पूछ सकते हैं. There will be no problem with that. आप क्लास के जनरली मैं आपकी क्लास के 10 मिनट पहले आ जाता हूँ और आप क्लास के बाद भी मुझे पूछ सकते हैं. So do not hesitate in putting up your questions. Do make sure that we know your questions. And in case you cannot ask me within the class, this is my Telegram ID. You can always ask me questions on Telegram. All right, so leave a message for me and we can always talk. So in case there is any problem in that, this is at the rate VJ1976. And I forgot telling you my name. My name is Vibhas. But इसके आपको एक नंबर नहीं मिलेंगे यूपीएससी में, तो कोई खास इंपॉर्टेंट नहीं है ये फिर. All right. Now there are 2-3 things that I again guide the batches on. Number one, when we will study economics, we will be focusing on empirical evidence to do any analysis. Unless you don't do empirical evidence, जब तक data का support नहीं है, तब तक analysis में कोई फायदा नहीं है. All right. So we need to have data, we need to have empirics, and then only the analysis can be done properly. But there also, I'll give you an example of what I mean. Take an example. Suppose when people say India is dominated by foreign investment, etc. I've seen it very often in newspapers also, they write that post liberalization, India is dominated by foreign investment. Now, suppose you get very enamored by this and you say, Acha, India is dominated by foreign investment. Now you are talking to the interview board, say a couple of years later, and the interview board asks you a question. And as I said, you are influenced by this thought process. So, आपने interview board को बोला, sir, you know what? Due to this dominance of foreign investment in India, these troubles arise. The board will ask you some questions on empirics. So, say the board asks you, okay, what is India's GDP? अब तुम तो इंटरव्यू प्रिपेयर्ड कैंडिडेट हो, सब कुछ जानोगे, तो तुम बोलोगे सर $4 trillion. Fair enough, approximately we are there. Then the board will ask you what is the total share of investment in India's GDP, and you will say again you are prepared. You say, sir, 32%. Now 32% of $4 trillion is around 1.28 trillion. 1.28 trillion dollars. Then the board will ask you how much is total foreign investment in India. Say again you are well prepared. You will say, sir, it has been around $120 billion, both direct and in share market and all. Now $120 billion on $1.28 trillion is 10%. Dominant? Imagine how many times we are told this. पर मैं हर रोज सुबह आके भी अगर तुम्हें बोलूंगा ना कि मैं ऋतिक रोशन हूं तो वो सही नहीं होगा. So a lie repeated 100 times can't be true. So you got to think about the idea of empirical evidence. Search for empirics. I am your source, one of them. Go to ministry websites, check your economic survey, do India yearbook, but search for empirics rather than believing what is being told. Because we can be told n number of things. But is that actually happening or not happening is what empirics tell you. That's number one. Number two, empirics has to be understood. जो data आप पढ़ते हैं, it has to be understood in the context of event. Alright, हर data का एक context होता है. अगर उसे out of context quote कर दिया जाए, if I quote a data to you out of context, well, the whole sense can change. Say, for example, when I say India is the 5th largest economy in the world, now it makes sense and it looks good. And I'm not complaining at all. We were the 13th largest economy in 1991. Today we are the 5th largest economy. But one context is we were the 6th largest economy in 1951. So you need to know that history of the context also. That India was the 6th largest economy in the world in 1951, even though we were pretty poor, which I don't disagree to, but we were the 6th largest economy in 1951, and then our poor policy making took us to 13th largest economy. So people who apologize for pre-91 will never let you know this. क्योंकि वो उनके दिमाग में रहेगा कि नहीं, इनको लगना चाहिए सब कुछ पहले रोज ही था, जो नहीं था. हम 6th से 13th हो गए, अभी 13th से 5th हो गए. ये एक कंटेक्स्ट हुआ. लेकिन दूसरा कंटेक्स्ट भी क्या है? We are the 5th largest economy, but we are arguably the most populated country. So in that case, when it comes to my income per person, that is per capita, it comes down drastically. आप सोचिए हम किसी ब्रिटिश को मिले, उनको बोले, dude, we are beating you. We are now the 5th largest and you are the 6th largest, so we are ahead of you. The Britisher will say, right, we are a $3.1 trillion economy, which they are, but they have 70 million people. We are almost, say, a $4 trillion economy, but we have 1.4 billion people. So their per capita income is around $50,000. Ours is around $3,000. फिर उनको क्या बोलेंगे? बाद में मिलता हूं तुमको. So we got to understand that every data has a context. That context should not be forgotten. Same thing, say when you say India is the fastest growing economy. Of course we are. And again I repeat, I am a pretty happy soul when I listen to that, because 25 years ago I would not have imagined it, that India will achieve such levels. But we are the fastest growing economy today in the world. But again, put it in the context. So India is say a $4 trillion economy. If we grow even 8%, then we have added $320 billion. Americans are a $26 trillion economy. Even if they grow 1.5%, they have added $390 billion. Chinese are a $17 trillion economy. Even if they grow 4%, they have added $680 billion. So the base is important. इट्स लाइक मैं आपको एक नॉर्मल एनालॉजी देता हूं. आपके मान लीजिए एक एग्जाम में 80 मार्क्स आए, यू गेट 80 मार्क्स इन अ पेपर, आई गेट 10. देन नेक्स्ट एग्जाम you get 88 and I get 20, and I come to you and tell you, I'm beating you because you have grown by 10% and I did by 100. But then I scored a 10, so I am expected to score a 20. You scored an 80, you can't make it 160. So one has to put it again. I'm not at all saying that these are not achievements. Being the fastest growing economy, being the fifth largest economy, they are achievements. But when we put them in the context, we will realize that there is no room for any complacency right now. There's a lot of traveling to be done for us. So empirical evidence is important. Context of empirical evidence is important. And last but not the least, please leave your political beliefs outside that door when you enter my classroom. आप जिनको भी प्यार करते हैं, नफरत करते हैं, वो बाहर त्याग के आएंगे, फिर बाहर जाइए, वापस उनको अपना लीजिए. But Rahul ji, Mamta ji, Modi ji, Kejriwal ji, any ji, they are only case study for me, nothing more, nothing less. ये सारे लोग 30-40 साल में मर जाएंगे, रिटायर हो जाएंगे, कुछ हो जाएगा, भारत रहेगा. लेकिन तो इसीलिए my concern is what's good for my country, what's not so good for my country. Please remain detached from political personalities. मैं मजाक में ही पढ़ाऊंगा आपको, कि मजाक में ही लाइफ चलाता हूं. मैंने अपने दोस्त से ये मजाक किया भी था. उनको सरकार बहुत पसंद है, करंट गवर्नमेंट. तो वो हर बात में बोलते थे 75 साल में जो नहीं हुआ अब हो रहा है, 75 साल में कुछ नहीं हुआ अब हो रहा है. तो मैंने एक दिन उनको टोका, मैंने कहा तुम हुए, मैं हुआ, चीजें हुई 75 साल में भाई, ऐसा क्यों कह रहे हो कुछ नहीं हुआ? वाई क्वेश्चन आवर ओन आइडेंटिटी? खैर मैं ऐसे ही बात ही करता हूं. यू विल गेट यूज्ड टू इट ग्रेजुअली एज वी get more friendly to each other. But my point is that no government alone can change a country, and no government alone can destroy a country. अभी हम लोग उस खतरनाक हालत में हैं. जो लोग सरकार को प्यार करते हैं वो कहते हैं सब कुछ इसी सरकार की वजह से हो रहा है, और जो सरकार से नहीं प्यार करते वो कहते हैं सब कुछ गलत भी इसी सरकार की वजह से हो रहा है. That is exactly what you have to navigate. And you have to make sure that your answer sheet finally in the mains examination is a balanced, intelligent answer sheet rather than a skewed answer sheet tilting to a political view. That should not be happening. Politics will play its role. वो तो ठीक है, अच्छी बात है, हम डेमोक्रेसी में है तो चलते रहना चाहिए ये. लेकिन उससे हम अगर sway हो गए और किसी एक आदमी से इतना प्यार कर लिए या इतना नफरत कर लिए कि पूरा प्रिज्म ही उसके हिसाब से देखे, then there is some serious problem. Because nobody can do everything right, I again repeat, and nobody can do everything wrong. So life is always somewhere between Ravish Kumar and Arnab Goswami. Always keep that in mind. That life हमेशा इन दोनों के बीच में है. ये दोनों इंटेलिजेंट लोग हैं, इनको पता है कि मुझे सुनने कौन आ रहा है, तो वो वही बोलते हैं जो उनको सुनने आने लोग सुनना चाहते हैं. वरना सोचिए, रवीश कुमार जी को एक भी सही पॉलिसी नहीं दिखती सरकार की, और अर्नब गोस्वामी जी को एक भी गलत नहीं दिखती. तो इसमें ये तो किसी भी नॉर्मल इंटेलिजेंट आदमी को समझ में आना चाहिए दैट दिस इज बायस्ड कवरेज. लेकिन उसमें कब समझ नहीं आता? जब मुझे वही सुनना है. तो जब वो बोलते हैं ना ऐसा, हाँ ये हुए ना आदमी, ये कर रहे हैं पत्रकारिता, इनमें हिम्मत है, उनमें हिम्मत नहीं है, तो मूर्ख हो गए वहां. वो मूर्ख बना रहे हैं. तो वो वही बता रहे हैं जो चाहते हैं तुम सुनो, और तुम भी वही सुनना चाहते हो. बस वो अपना ताली बज रही है फिर दोनों तरफ से. आप उनकी टीआरपी बढ़ा रहे हैं, उनके चैनल की इनकम बढ़ रही है या यूट्यूब की इनकम बढ़ रही है. आपको सेटिस्फैक्शन मिल रहा है उसके बदले कि हाँ कुछ तो हुआ बात, मेरे मर्जी की किसी ने तो बात कही. दैट एग्जैक्टली व्हाट यूपीएससी एस्पिरेंट्स कैन नॉट अफोर्ड. यूपीएससी एस्पिरेंट्स हैव टू बी. तुम ऑफिसर बनना चाहते हो ना भाई, तो तुम जब ऑफिसर बनोगे, ईश्वर करेंगे 35 ईयर्स तक ऑफिसर रहोगे, सेम पार्टी थोड़ी रहेगी सरकार में. और तुम खुद को पॉलिटिसाइज कर लिए अगर, तो परेशान रहोगे. जब तुम्हारे मतलब की पार्टी आएगी तब तो फिर भी ठीक ठाक पोस्टिंग मिल जाएगी, नहीं आएगी तो जाओ कहीं रहो फिर. बट इफ यू आर नॉट लाइक दैट, देन बिलीव मी, यू विल बी sought after by everybody, because then you will be efficient. Then they will know that okay, whatever this fellow does, speaks, doesn't speak, efficient है, इनको काम पे लगाओ, ये काम में आएंगे. और उनको पता है कि affiliation नहीं है, मुझसे नहीं है तो उनसे भी नहीं है. And that is what bureaucracy was expected to be, apolitical. But unfortunately now we are becoming comparatively different. But जब मैं ये बोलता हूँ political beliefs, तो बस political beliefs कह रहा हूँ. You can always differ with me, you can always ask questions. We can be differently trained people, we can think differently. I am trained in one way. I did my master's from Delhi School of Economics way back 1997. I finished my PhD from Massachusetts in 2001. So I have been doing things since maybe you were not born, you know. So that's completely okay. I'm trained one way in that. My wife is also a trained economist. वो भी PhD है economics में. उन्होंने प्रेसिडेंसी कॉलेज से किया कोलकाता में. She strongly believes that socialist policies will bring huge growth to India. So everybody does mistakes. I'm okay with it. Anyways, thank you. I'm very happy that you understood the joke. I normally say this joke in the first class to test which level of intellect I am teaching. आप नहीं भी हंस सकते हैं, माँ सरस्वती सबको वरदान दें, जरूरी नहीं है. लेकिन आप जब समझ जाते हैं जोक्स को तो मुझे डीप इनसाइड तसल्ली मिलती है. खैर, सो दैट इज वन दैट आई नीडेड यू टू नो. प्लीज कीप दीज डिक्शंस इन माइंड टिल वी गो ऑन. एक और बात आपसे कहूंगा, क्योंकि मैं वैसा ही हूं तो आपको पता रहना चाहिए. सीरियस होके कोई नहीं बनता इस दुनिया में सक्सेसफुल, सिंसियर होके बनते हैं. तो सिंसियर रहो, सीरियस मत रहो. मैं हंसूंगा नहीं, कुछ भी हो जाए घर से ही नहीं निकलूंगा, कोई मेरे दोस्त नहीं होने चाहिए. ठीक है, हैप्पी नॉर्थ कोरिया. बट अगर तुम सिंसियर हो तो तुम्हें पता है क्या टाइम है जब मुझे काम करना चाहिए, कितना काम करना चाहिए, काम जरूर खत्म करूंगा अपना, और बाकी टाइम है तो मस्ती मजाक करूंगा. आई मीन, laughter keeps us easy. Again, you can disagree with me. You are adults and we are a democracy till now. So in that case, you can always disagree with me. But that is my belief system. I have always lived like that. And I think that makes you efficient. I have been decently efficient in my life. I finished my PhD when I was not even 25. So I think I can keep some call on that I have been decently efficient as a student also, that you can go by. लेकिन मुझे ये लगता है कि नहीं हंसकर, नहीं बात करके आप कुछ अचीव नहीं करते. आप खुद को एक तसल्ली देते हैं, हाँ मैंने पिक्चर नहीं देखी 1 साल से. यूपीएससी ने ये थोड़ी कहा पिक्चर मत देखो. यूपीएससी ये भी नहीं कहते किसी से बात मत करो या हंसो मत. सो कीप लाफिंग, कीप एंजॉइंग. मैं फिर कह रहा हूं, और मैं अगर बाई चांस आप में से कोई एंग्री यंग मैन या एंग्री यंग वुमेन है तो मुझे अलग से आके बता देना कि मेरे साथ नहीं, क्योंकि आप ही मेरे सोसाइटी होते हैं. सो ऑल माई जोक्स आर ऑलवेज विथ यू, समटाइम्स ऑन यू, समटाइम्स ऑन मी. सो इट जस्ट गोज ऑन लाइक दैट. सो बी अवेयर. वैसे मैं जोक करता हूं तो बता देता हूं कि मैं जोक कर रहा हूं. जैसे अभी मैंने किया तो बता दिया. इट लैंड्स मी इन ट्रबल एट टाइम्स. I'll quickly tell you one incident. मैं मैसाचुसेट्स के लिए रिसर्च भी करता हूँ. आई एम द रिसर्च हेड MIT स्लोन. तो एक दिन हम लोग रिसर्च कर रहे थे, रात के 1 बज गए थे. माई असिस्टेंट आस्क्ड मी, सर when do you eat? Now I found it as a very unnecessary question. So to finish it off, I said, I eat when I go back home. Then he said, sir, does ma'am wait for you? Now, you know, gradually you will know how I am. I am closing to 50, but I am very naughty inside. So, you know, when he said, does ma'am wait for you? तो मेरा वो naughty sense active हो गया. I looked at him and I said, I am the one who cooks, so she has to wait. Now, you know, I was joking. This fellow did not laugh. When he did not laugh, I thought, okay, जैसा मैंने आपको कहा कि माँ सरस्वती सबको वरदान दे, जरूरी नहीं. मुझे लगा ठीक है भाई, मूर्ख आदमी बेचारा क्यों परेशान करें. Then 15 days later, my office has a party. My wife is there. This fellow walks up to her and says, ma'am, sir works very hard from day till night. You can at least cook. I can't tell you how badly I was cooked that day. So then on, I have decided that whenever I will make a joke, I will make it clear I am making a joke so that there is no further trouble in my life. But anyways, so let's get started. I again repeat, you are free to ask any questions. Do ask. I am happy answering them. Otherwise, you can contact me here. This is my Telegram ID. Do ask questions. हाँ, Telegram पे अगर आप मुझे सवाल पूछे और by chance आपको 1 दिन तक जवाब नहीं मिला तो वो सवाल वापस थोड़ा रिपीट कर दो या टेलीग्राम पे तो तरह तरह के स्टिकर्स हैं, तो कोई भूत प्रेत बना के मुझे भेज दो, ठीक है. बिकॉज व्हाट हैपेंस इज इन अ डे आई रिसीव अराउंड 400-450 messages and I'm not getting any younger any longer. So in that case I just might not see the message that you have sent me or may overlook it. So in case you don't get an answer in a day, normally I respond within अ डे श्योरली, बिकॉज सुबह से शाम तक मैं क्लास या रिसर्च में रहता हूँ, तो रात को मैं अपने सारे मैसेजेस आंसर करता हूँ. अगर आप कोई नेक्स्ट आईएएस के जीएस ग्रुप एक्सेट्रा पे हैं या प्रीलिम्स ग्रुप पे, तो आप देखेंगे कभी कभी रात के 1 बजे भी मेरे मैसेज आ रहे होते हैं, क्योंकि जब मैं सोने जा रहा होता हूँ उसके पहले सारे मैसेजेस जवाब देता हूँ. बट इन केस कभी मैं मिस कर गया, सो डू नॉट फील दैट आई डिड नॉट आंसर योर मैसेज. आई मे हैव ओवरलुक्ड इट, सेंड इट टू मी, आई एम हैप्पी आंसरिंग. एंड नो क्वेश्चन इज अ बैड क्वेश्चन. सारे सवाल जायज हैं, सही हैं. आप इस बैकग्राउंड से नहीं है, आप बिल्कुल ये भी चिंता मत करिए कि सर क्या सोचेंगे. मैं नहीं सोचता कुछ भी आपके बारे में कि आपने क्यों ये सवाल पूछा. ये भी मत चिंता करिए कि सर बाद में मेरे बारे में बात करेंगे. क्लासरूम की बात बाहर करता ही नहीं हूं मैं. Classroom is like Las Vegas. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. It doesn't go outside. So we will keep it here only, and we will entertain things. But do ask. That's important. For those of you for whom economics is a completely new subject, take stepwise, progress. Most important is for those of you for whom it is new, it will be a new topic, a new method. So keep revising at least 3 to 4 times. If it is some for those of you for whom it is not new, you are used to the terms. But for those of you for whom it is new, the terms will be a challenge. So the best way to overcome that is to revise it 2 to 3 times at least. जैसे ही तुम 2-3 बार पढ़ने लगोगे, आराम से समझ आएंगी चीजें. मैं डेलिबरेटली काफी स्लो रहता हूं in the beginning of our discussion so that you internalize, but still you will need to revise it. आपको एग्जाम्पल देता हूं. आप फंडामेंटल राइट्स, डायरेक्टिव प्रिंसिपल्स, इक्वेटर, टोपोलॉजी, ये सब कुछ पढ़े 6th से लेके 10th तक. तो अगर कोई टीचर आकर आपसे इनकी बात करते हैं, कोई बोलता है रैंडमली डेक्कन प्लेटू, तो आपका माइंड इमेजिन कर पाता है जैसे कहां होगा डेक्कन प्लेटू. कोई आकर बोलते हैं आपसे डायरेक्टिव प्रिंसिपल्स, तो आप इमेजिन कर पाते हो कि अच्छा आर्टिकल 40s जो हैं उनके अंदर ये डायरेक्टिव प्रिंसिपल्स मिलेंगे मुझे. लेकिन जब कोई आकर आपके सामने बोलेंगे जीडीपी, जीएनपी, नेट फैक्टर इनकम फ्रॉम अब्रॉड, डिफ्लेशन, इन्फ्लेशनरी टेंडेंसीज, डेफिसिट इन द फिस्कल पॉलिसी, तो ये सब नई बातें होंगी. आपको लगेगा इतनी बात कह गया, पता नहीं क्या मीनिंग हुआ इसका. So that is what I am saying, that these are new terms. Give yourself time, repeat things again and again, do ask again and again, and you will gradually see that by the end of our discussions, you will be very well versed in economics. So do not have any fear of it at all. जब भी आपको बाई चांस कोई डराए कि इकोनॉमिक्स बहुत टफ सब्जेक्ट है, बोलना मुझे विभास पढ़ाता है, वो ध्यान रख लेगा. that's my job, I'll take care of it. I know my economics decently fine. यही सब किया मैंने लाइफ लॉन्ग, तो ये तो कम से कम ये मुझे आता है. बाकी चीजें नहीं आती होंगी, बट इकोनॉमिक्स में आपको कॉन्फिडेंटली बता सकता हूं दैट आई वुड नो लाइक द बैक ऑफ माई हैंड. आई मीन आई हैव बीन टीचिंग सिंस 1997, so it's quite some time in life now. So don't worry about it at all. ओके और मैंने आज तक अपने किसी स्टूडेंट को नहीं कहा कि तुम्हारा क्वेश्चन खराब है. आपको चैलेंज नहीं दे रहा हूं. नहीं कहा, ठीक है सर, हम बताते हैं आपको कैसे खराब क्वेश्चन पूछते हैं. बट generally speaking, okay, again I repeat, your sources should not be anything else but class notes and the next IAS book. Apart from that, the current affair discussions and all we will keep doing. Do that with us. Okay, so we begin with first things first. If you have something to ask, you can ask me. I'll be willing to answer. Perfect. Thank you, Rajvanshi. Yes. Okay, so then we begin. We begin with the first question first. Then you write, what is an economy? And whatever I am discussing with you today and whatever I will discuss with you tomorrow are mainly from prelims as a perspective. All right, no question in mains can be asked from what we are discussing. We are discussing the very basics of economics. My source is mainly NCERT, microeconomics of 11th standard. So that is what we are discussing. But no mains question from here. जो भी मैं आज कर रहा हूं और कल करूंगा वो पूरी तरह प्रीलिम्स ओरिएंटेड कहानी होगी. प्रीलिम्स में सवाल आ सकते हैं यहां से. So we see what is an economy. You write an answer and then we will discuss it. You write, any place or region, any place or region with any place or region with well defined rules, well defined rules and institutions to implement those rules, is an economy. Okay, let's try understanding this. First of all, I deliberately gave you a very broad definition of economy. This definition can equally suit a society and it can equally suit a polity. All right, it can equally suit any of these, whether you talk about economy, society, or polity. This definition goes with that. All right, but that is deliberate. Reason is, I want you to understand that an economy is not necessarily only market, it is not necessarily only money, it is not only finance, it is a much broader idea. You understand that? इकोनॉमी का मतलब, अर्थव्यवस्था का मतलब सिर्फ पैसा या मार्केट या फाइनेंस नहीं होता, ये एक ब्रॉडर आइडिया है. और क्या है वो ब्रॉडर आइडिया? द ब्रॉडर आइडिया इज दैट वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट set of rules. So when it comes to distinguishing Indian economy, Chinese economy, American economy, how do we distinguish it? We distinguish it on the basis of rules and regulations that exist in them. For example, taxation rules in India can be different from taxation rules in China, and that can be different from taxation rules in USA, etc. So we know, okay, this is the economy I am in. Similarly, the way you register your business. So registration of business can be different in India, different in China, and so on. So different rules, kind of define different type of economic systems. So if that is the case, it implies that you may have economy for countries, but then you can have economies of state. For example, Tamil Nadu's economy can be different from Bihar's economy, and that can be different from Uttar Pradesh's economy, from Madhya Pradesh's economy, Maharashtra's economy, and so on. It's because every state can have their own economic system. Again, they can have their own methodology of, say, taxing petrol. They can have their own methodology of registering business. They can have their own methodology of house tax that they take from you, and so on and so forth. You understand that? So that is again an idea of a global economy, a national economy, a state's economy, and then there can be cities economy. So economy of Delhi, economy of Surat, economy of Kota, economy of Chennai, etc. So in that case, again, different cities can have their own sources of income. Some city can be more service-oriented city. Some city can be more industry-oriented city. You understand that? Like economy of Jamshedpur is based a lot on Tisco, which prevails near to that. But then that is not necessarily the economy of Delhi, which is based more on trading and services. So different cities can have their own economy. Within the city, different colonies can have their own economy. I'll give you an example. अगर मैं एक statement दूं that economy of old Rajendra Nagar is based on the migrant students living here. Now that's a true statement, because if you look at all the book stalls, and if you look at the eateries and the tuition centers, we see that, okay, it's the migrant students who fill up the area, the land, the rentals that are here. So, and that creates the whole economy of this area. But the same statement cannot be true about economy of Connaught Place. Do I believe I'm reaching you on this? So that means there will be a global economy, national economy, states economy, cities economy, and within the cities, colonies economy. The smallest microcosm will be families and individuals. The family systems work with their own economy. You know, it's about, say when you develop a patriarchal system, तो आप देखेंगे वहां हमारे सोशियो कल्चरल इंटरेक्शंस इकोनॉमी पे बेस्ड हो जाते हैं. Our response to mother and father, मम्मी के सामने बोल सकते हैं, मैं नहीं जाऊंगा चाचा जी की शादी में, कहाँ ले जाते रहते हो मुझे, बिल्कुल नहीं जाना, मन नहीं कर रहा. तब तक पापा आ गए, क्या बात हो रही है, कुछ नहीं, बस कह रहा था. So where does that come from? It comes from the system of patriarchy, where males have been the earning members for very long. So even if females become the earning members, some extent of subjugation prevails. I'm trying to teach you cultural and economic overlap. That economies define the culture of a space. So cultural and economic overlap that can happen. Social and economic overlap. Sometimes political and economic overlap that can happen. All right. So in that case, things influence each other, and that is why we say that any area or region with well-defined rules. Okay. But what else? Apart from rules, you need institutions to implement those rules. Institutions को हिंदी में बोलते हैं संस्थान. तो संस्थान क्या करते हैं? कंटिन्यूटी देते हैं किसी भी रूल को इंप्लीमेंट करने के लिए. The institutions give you continuity to implement any rule. Okay, I'll give you an example. एक बात और समझिएगा आप, understand this. When I say rules and institutions, it doesn't mean that an economy cannot exist without rules or institutions. What it means is that an economy cannot be defined without rules and institutions. एक अर्थव्यवस्था एग्जिस्ट कर सकती है बिना कानून के और बिना संस्थान के, लेकिन आप उसको डिफाइन नहीं कर सकते, उसका वर्णन नहीं कर सकते. An economy can exist without rules and institutions, can't be defined. Why it can't be defined? Because if you don't have rules, and if the rules are changing every day, and if the institutions are changing every day, then how do you find out which system you are talking about? Do I believe you understand this? Take a very simple example. Suppose आप में से कोई एक आदमी गुस्सा हो गए, खड़े हुए, बोले व्हाट अ बोरिंग लेक्चर, एक चाकू लिया मेरे पेट में मार दिया. आई एम नॉट गिविंग यू आइडियाज. So suppose I collapse. Now I collapse, what will happen? What will happen is that somebody will call the police, an institution. What is an institution? Think. An institution is any organization with well-defined objective. That is what you call an institution. किसी भी संस्थान का मतलब क्या हुआ? Any well-defined objective, any institution or organization with that. The school we study in is an institution, police is an institution, parliament is an institution, etc. Now, somebody calls the police officer comes, arrests the accused, presents the accused in front of a judiciary, and the judiciary will decide based on evidence whether to acquit or to convict the accused. You understand that? Now think, who the police officer is doesn't matter. Who the judge is doesn't matter. They are all governed by rules and regulations in which they exist. And they are all governed by the institutions that they are taking care of. So police cannot give the judgment and the judge cannot go and arrest. You understand that? So every institution has its role and then they have to do a thing. But so that is called institution with rules. And that is continuous. A police officer कोई भी आए, कोई भी जाए, judge कोई भी आए, कोई भी जाए, जो system है वो चलता रहेगा. You understand that? And that is why it is easy to define it. But imagine if the same incidence happens in a warlord controlled region in Sudan or Afghanistan and so on. Now the warlord is legislature, judiciary, executive combined. इनका जो मर्जी होगा कुछ दे देंगे जजमेंट. हाँ चलो ले जाओ इसको मार दो, अच्छा आज छोड़ दो, मेरा भी टीचर मुझे मारता था, तुम जाओ 2 टीचर और मार के आओ. ऐसी कहानी हो सकती है. क्यों होगा ऐसा? It will happen like that because one person is taking all calls and that one person is beyond any institution. You understand that? So in that case, it's very difficult to define that under what system am I prevailing. So I repeat again, an economy will need set of rules and set of institutions. An economy can exist without them, but cannot be defined without them. Everybody is clear till here? Okay, let's go to the next question then. You write, what are economic activities and you write within that all those activities which can be measured, all those activities which can be measured and which create value, which create value are called economic activities. Economic activities. After a full stop, they include production, and in a bracket you please write converting raw material into finished goods and services. Converting raw material into finished goods and services. Sometimes they also say converting input into output. All right. Say, for example, the steel can be a raw material and it can be used to make this chair. So in that case, steel is the raw material and chair is the commodity. जब भी मैं बोलता हूं finished goods, goods mean commodities, the tangibles. All right. Goods का मतलब होता है economics में commodity. All right, that is anything which is tangible, you can see, you can touch, is good. For example, this shirt is a good, this board is a good, chair is a good, and so on. All right, that is a good. Services are the non-tangibles. All right, जिन्हें आप टच नहीं कर सकते, देख नहीं सकते, but they do create value for us. For example, healthcare. So when we talk about healthcare, we are say we can experience getting better by a medicine. We can't see the health and we can't touch our health, but we can experience it. That okay, I took these medicines and I'm becoming better off now. So medicine is a commodity, but the experience of becoming better is that health you are looking for. So that's healthcare. Or for that matter, say education. So if I am teaching you and suppose your knowledge gets increased, hopefully, then in that case, again, that will mean you will experience that, okay, now I know more, or I can articulate better, or I can analyze better compared to what I did earlier. And that's only an experience. It can't be seen or touched. So things like education, healthcare, restaurant service, transportation, they all are called services. All right. So goods मतलब वस्तु, सामान जिसे देख सकते हैं, छू सकते हैं. सर्विसेज मतलब सेवा जिसे छू नहीं सकते, देख नहीं सकते, लेकिन महसूस कर सकते हैं. So that is goods and services which you produce by using all the raw materials. All right, that is called production. Then you close the bracket, put a comma, and write consumption okay, consumption will imply utilizing a good or a service. All right, so consumption is utilizing goods and services. Any use of a good or service will be called consumption. For example, if you are sitting on a chair, you are consuming it. If I am using this writing stick, I am consuming it. You understand that? तो इकोनॉमिक्स में जब भी हम लोग वर्ड यूज करते हैं कंजम्पशन, इसका मतलब होता है मैंने इस्तेमाल किया किसी चीज का अपने सेटिस्फैक्शन के लिए. सो वेन एवर आई एम यूजिंग समथिंग फॉर माई सेटिस्फैक्शन, आई एम in economics we say we are consuming it. All right, so production, consumption. All right, again अब सोचना एक बात, जब मैंने कहा economic activities are all those activities which create value and which can be measured. Creating value means what? You are producing something or you are getting satisfied by consuming something. That is the idea of creating value. Again, put a comma after this and write exchange एक्सचेंज का मतलब होता है ट्रेड ऑफ। आपने कुछ दिया, इसके बदले आपको कुछ मिला, that is exchange. All right, you give something, you get something. Now see, exchange can be monetary. I pay money to someone and buy a product. I'm exchanging it. मैं पैसा दे रहा हूं, कोई सामान खरीद रहा हूं, तो मैंने exchange किया. All right. Or exchange can be barter system, where I give some commodity to someone, get some commodity back. I do some service, जैसे अभी आपने फीस दिया next IAS को, that is a monetary exchange. And then next IAS is teaching you. But मान लीजिए अगर 400 साल पहले चले जाएं, तो आप लोग क्या करते? कोई 1 किलो भिंडी ला रहा होता, कोई 1 किलो आटा ला रहा होता, और अपना गुरुजी को पकड़ा देते, गुरुजी पढ़ा रहे हैं. You know, that was barter system, exchange of goods and services. So exchange can be of commodities, exchange can be of money. You clear on that? Understand one more thing connected in that. Exchange connotes a market. अगर एक्सचेंज हो रहा है तो मार्केट होगा जरूर. अब वो मार्केट फॉर्मल हो सकता है. A formal market is like the markets we go to. There is a rule and we go there and we purchase things, we get a bill and so on. Or the markets can be informal. The informal markets can be like the way you exchange those WWE stickers in your childhood. You know, there was a market, uske prices fixed the, these many gold card for these many silver card, and these many silver card for these many normal card, and so on. It was not a formal market, but a market nevertheless, where exchange would happen. All right, and all that would count as economic activities if it can be measured. जिस अगर आप measure कर सकते हैं उन values को, तो economic activity होगी. So production, consumption, exchange, and distribution. And distribution. Distribution is allocation of goods and services among people. That is distribution. We'll just take a minute, let this get resolved, and in the meantime we can then go back to things here. Just a clarification again, that when I told you that we will give you marked portions of the book, the marked portions will be uploaded on the portal in the PDF section. There will be a picture uploaded जिसमें आपके book का index होगा. It's already uploaded. Perfect. So then you have it. You can always check into that. All right. उसमें अगर कुछ changes करने हुए तो मैं changes कर दूंगा और आपको inform कर दूंगा. It will depend on how I visualize 2025. All right. So I'm just waiting for the elections to get over, see who comes to power, because that also decides what UPSC asks. All right. So in that case, let's wait for that time, and then we will be in a better position to see or know that exactly how your questions or which topics will be touched more, questions will be framed. We will go into that accordingly. All right, we'll discuss it in that manner. Okay, just telling you one more thing there. Whenever we talk about economic activities, the basic idea always is that there should be some value created. Now, what does it mean when we say value created? आप सोच के देखिए क्या मीनिंग हुआ. वैल्यू क्रिएशन मतलब क्या? या तो कुछ प्रोड्यूस हुआ हो, समथिंग हैज बीन प्रोड्यूस्ड, क्रिएट्स वैल्यू, और समथिंग इज कंज्यूम्ड एंड आई गेट सेटिस्फैक्शन, क्रिएट्स वैल्यू. व्हेन एक्सचेंज टेक्स प्लेस, then it creates value for producers and consumers. You understand that? So that is the basic idea of value creation. That whenever we talk about value creation, we are actually looking at some kind of activity which gives satisfaction to people or which creates a new product or service in the market. Then we say we are doing value creation. Absolutely value creation. The only challenge in that is how do you measure it? I'm answering a question that being a homemaker, will that create value? It definitely creates value. The only challenge is measuring that value, because see, the challenge is you can't compare the work of, say, a mother or a father cooking to a professional cook cooking. They're very different. Why different? Because the efforts can be different. Similarly, if the data has to be collected, it becomes pretty difficult to find out how the data is to be measured. How do you collect the data of what chores? Also remember, when you say housewife or any homemaker, there can be males also doing that. But when we say anybody looking after the house, it's very difficult to quantify them uh, on a macro system or in a larger system, because everybody might be doing different chores. So I'll give you an example. There can be homemakers who may be cooking their own food, washing their own utensils, cleaning their own house. They are also homemakers. There can be homemakers who do none of these. They are also homemakers. You understand that? So it becomes very difficult to paint a homogeneous picture कि ये सब लोग होम मेकर हैं, इनके काम की वैल्यू इतनी रखी जाए, लेकिन कैसे डिसाइड हो कौन कौन सा काम कर रहा है? तो उसके लिए आपको माइक्रो डेटा इकट्ठा करना होगा सभी के घर जाकर, और वहां दिक्कत आती है एस्टिमेशन की. वो भी डेटा मिलना मुश्किल होगा, बिकॉज इट विल बी वेरी डिफिकल्ट टू वेरीफाई द डेटा that what the person is saying is happening exactly, not happening. So that is the reason why normally activities of homemakers are taken as non-economic. But again, when it comes to somebody asking you, do they create value or not? The answer is definitely they create value. It is not that they don't create value. The challenge is how do you measure it? You understand that? So these are some practical challenges we're done. Perfect. People online, don't worry at all. We were waiting for you to get back on screen. I'll just go back quickly so that everybody gets in synchronization of what I was talking. So we were discussing about what activities can qualify as economic activities. And we said economic activities are activities which create value and which can be measured, both of it. And then we said economic activities consist of production, that is when you convert raw material into finished goods and services; consumption, that is when you utilize goods and services; exchange, which means either in the market or in the in an informal market, and you are bartering it off or paying money. तो या तो आप पैसे देकर exchange करेंगे या barter system के through exchange करेंगे. So production, consumption, exchange, and then I made you write distribution. And what is distribution? Allocation of goods and services among people. अब यहां एक बात समझना, distribution is a larger set than exchange. Exchange is a smaller set. Distribution is a larger set. Why? Distribution can happen through the market. I can go to a market and purchase things. That is distribution. मैं market गया, पैसे दिए और ये writing stick खरीद लिया. Market ने मुझे ये distribute कर दिया. All right, but market is one way to distribute. Distribution can be done even outside the market. For example, say if there is a free education given by government through a school, that's also distribution. You understand that? Free education through a school. But then it's free. Why am I calling it economic activity? Okay, it's creating value. Okay, skill set. It involves consumption. That's the factor. It's free for us, but that doesn't mean there is no expenditure incurred, there is no resource used. You understand that? हमारे लिए free हो सकता है, but imagine somebody has to pay for the land of the school, somebody has to pay for the building, somebody has to pay for the teacher's salary, non-teaching staff's salary, the stationery that the school will purchase. All this has to be paid by someone, which means that this expenditure is there, the resource is utilized. It is just that the children coming to school don't have to take that burden. But that doesn't mean resource use is not there. The resource use is there. And somebody, again I repeat, got to pay for it. Why do we say this? मैं आपको अभी थोड़ी 15 मिनट में क्लियर करूंगा और ये बात. पर इसका कारण है मेरा बोलने का, जब आप अगली बार करें freebies debate, should we give subsidy or not? That debate connotes here. If somebody asks me, should we give free food? Yes. Free water? Yes. Should we give free education? Yes. Free healthcare? Yes. Free electricity? Yes. Free transportation? Yes. Free laptop and computer? Yes. Do we have the money to do all that? No. And then there has to be a question mark. That can we afford it? तो जो मर्जी बोलो free. कोई दिक्कत थोड़ी है. Should next IS teach for free? Yes. Should Vibhas sir teach for free? Yes. Should you work for the government for free? Yes. यहां पे मना क्यों कर रहे हो? आप सोच के आइए, जब सब कुछ फ्री होना चाहिए तो आप सैलरी लेना बंद कर दीजिए। मैं अपने पैसे लेना बंद कर दूं नेक्स्ट आईएएस से, नेक्स्ट आईएएस आपसे पैसे लेना बंद कर दें, जिन्होंने ये एसी बेचा वो फ्री का बेच दें, जिन्होंने ये कंस्ट्रक्शन किया वो फ्री का कंस्ट्रक्ट कर दें, दुनिया फ्री हो जाएगी, कोई चिंता की बात नहीं है। पर ये तो नहीं हो सकता, आप समझ पा रहे होंगे मेरी बात। दैट्स नॉट लॉजिकल। सो व्हाट इज लॉजिकल? द लॉजिकल इज देन टू मेक चॉइसेस. What can be given for free viably and what cannot be given for free viably. Also remember, जब हम कहते हैं मैं फ्री में दे रहा हूं, ये देखना पड़ेगा फ्री में क्या दे रहे हैं। अच्छा, मैं आपको एक एग्जांपल देता हूं। When we drink water, normally we go for an RO water, we go for bottled water. हम ऐसे पीते हैं ना पानी। ऐसा तो नहीं होता कि अपने नल से पानी निकाले, सड़क पे जा रहे हैं, नल खुला हुआ है, पानी निकाले पी लिया आराम से। ऐसा करने की हिम्मत कम लोग कर पाते हैं। जिनके पास एक्सेसिबिलिटी है, पैसे रुपए हैं जेब में, तो लोग कहते हैं नहीं नहीं, मैं एक एक्वा गार्ड लगाऊंगा या अपने घर में एक केंट आरओ लगाऊंगा और वो पानी पीऊंगा। मतलब सरकार फ्री में वो पानी दे रहे हैं जिससे मुझे फ्री में बीमारी होगी। क्योंकि जो गरीब लोग हैं और एक्वा गार्ड अफोर्ड नहीं कर सकते, केंट आरओ अफोर्ड नहीं कर सकते, वो फिर गरीब में होने की वजह से बीमार रहे। सो आई एम गिविंग यू फ्री वाटर, you drink that free water, get with disease, then come to my mohalla clinic and we will treat you freely. Whole ecosystem created. That's not the way to go. If I am giving you free water, it should be potable water which I can drink and you can drink. So if the minister sahab claims that it is free water, the minister sahab should not be using an RO. It's free water, no? But when you treat water, it has a cost. So then everybody cannot get free water. The cost has to be recovered. Either everybody pays more taxes, but there has to be a method to recover it. Otherwise, it is unsustainable. तो जब आप कहते हैं फ्री में दे रहा हूं, मैं फ्री में आपको पढ़ाई दे रहा हूं, फ्री में आपको इलाज दे रहा हूं, तो क्यों नहीं जो उनके पास पैसे हैं वो सरकारी अस्पताल में जा रहे हैं, जिनके पास पैसे हैं वो किसी भी सरकारी स्कूल में जाके दाखिला ले रहे हैं। अगर ये होने लग जाए तब तो फ्री जस्टिफाइड है, नहीं तो इसको ठीक कीजिए फ्री में देने के साथ साथ, वरना हम अपने गरीबों को मूर्ख बना रहे हैं कि हम उन्हें फ्री में गलत चीज चिपका रहे हैं और हम उनको भरोसा दिला रहे हैं कि देखो फ्री है तुम्हारे लिए। बट व्हाट इज इट वी आर गिविंग फॉर फ्री इज इक्वली इंपॉर्टेंट अपार्ट फ्रॉम गिविंग इट फॉर फ्री. So if you ask me, drinking water is everybody's right, but a clean drinking water is everybody's right. I should not be drinking water which will give me cholera, jaundice, typhoid, etc. I should be getting clean drinking water, whether rich or poor. If I am not getting that, there should be a question mark on it, free or otherwise. So do the debate. Again, I've just started the debate with you. First two classes, I put a lot of things in your mind. So you keep doing that. I keep putting a lot of things in your mind anyways. कुछ चीजें मैं आपको बोलूंगा, आप यहाँ साइड में एक लाइन बनाएंगे और यहाँ जल्दी जल्दी जॉट डाउन कर लेंगे, क्योंकि मैं हर बात आपको लिखवा नहीं सकता. Can't dictate everything to you. But if it is jotted down, it will help you. So coming back to this, when somebody says distribution through market or for free, but what is the moral of the story? A, try distributing what you can afford, and try distributing in a manner where you can actually uplift people rather than keeping them dependent. मैं example देता हूं आपको. Giving 2,000 rupees for free to women. Why do that? Give an incentive that, and this is a 2,000 crore rupees bill in Delhi alone. It's a 4,200 crore rupees bill in Madhya Pradesh. आप कहेंगे सर तो विमेन को तो सपोर्ट मिलना चाहिए. यही तो कह रहा हूं, सपोर्ट मिलना चाहिए ना. तो कैसे मिलना चाहिए ये सपोर्ट? ये सपोर्ट मिलना चाहिए बाय टेलिंग द फर्म्स, वी विल गिव यू टैक्स बेनिफिट्स if you employ women, and if you employ more than 50% women, then even more tax benefits. With the same bill, now you are giving incentive to people to employ more women, which will mean women will learn not only to earn money, but they will also learn how to interact outside their household chores. It will be their own money. क्योंकि जो देते हैं नेताजी लोग क्या बोलते हैं? हम नहीं चाहते हमारी जो विमेन है वो अपने हस्बैंड पे या फादर पे या ब्रदर पे डिपेंडेंट हो. ट्रू, तो सरकार पे डिपेंडेंट रहे, कहीं ना कहीं तो डिपेंडेंट ही है. हर 5 साल में सरकार बोलेंगे आपका पैसा बढ़ा दूंगा, वोट मुझे दे दो. दैट्स परचेजिंग वोट. And it is not uplifting the women. Upliftment and upgradation happens when you empower people. आप हमेशा समझिएगा, आपके पेरेंट्स आपको सब्सिडाइज करते हैं, अनकंडीशनली नहीं. कोई मम्मी पापा नहीं मिलेंगे आपको राइट सेंसेस में जो बोलेंगे हाँ बेटा मैं पैसे दे रहा हूं, तुम आराम से जाओ दारू वारू पियो, मस्त रहो, पढ़ने लिखने की कोई जरूरत नहीं है, सेल्फ डिपेंडेंट कभी मत होना, हम लोग हैं ना, लाइफ लॉन्ग तुम्हें पाल लेंगे, फिर हम भी मर जाएंगे तुम भी मर जाना, कोई चिंता की बात नहीं है. You will not see anybody talking like that. Why? Because unless they don't empower you, you will not be in a position to take care of anything around you. So remember, upliftment is about empowerment. It is not about charity. And even if you are doing charity, it should be to empower rather than only to satisfy the short-term needs. So that is the basic idea of distribution to keep in mind. क्योंकि फ्री में देना बड़ा आसान है, लेकिन फ्री में थोड़ी दे रहे हैं, कुछ ना कुछ हम ही से लेकर हमें दे रहे हैं. सो आई कैन गिव यू अ फ्री वाईफाई बट आई कैन मेक पोलिसिंग बैड इन योर सिस्टम. अब सोच के देखिए, एक तरफ अखबार में आता है आईएएस आईपीएस की रिक्रूटमेंट कम करनी पड़ रही है क्योंकि हमारे पास पैसे नहीं है देने को. पुलिस ऑफिसर्स ज्यादा रिक्रूटेड नहीं है, हवलदार कांस्टेबल्स कम हैं क्योंकि पैसे नहीं है देने को. इनके लिए पैसे नहीं है हमारे पास, लाडली बहना योजना के लिए हैं. अब सोच के देखिए. सो दैट इज द एलोकेशन ऑफ रिसोर्स पार्ट विच आई एम ट्राइंग टू टीच यू. हाउ यू एलोकेट इज व्हाट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, बिकॉज दैट विल डिसाइड हाउ यू हैव डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड. अब सोच के देखिए, अगर एक सरकारी स्कूल अच्छा फंक्शन करने लगे, इफ अ गवर्नमेंट स्कूल फंक्शंस वेल, इट विल देन एंड इफ द मिडिल क्लास, अपर मिडिल क्लास कैन सेंड देयर चिल्ड्रन टू गवर्नमेंट स्कूल because it is functioning well, if they have 2 children at home, it automatically saves 6 to 10,000 rupees for them per month depending on which city they are living in. एक बच्चे को स्कूल भेजने का खर्चा कम से कम 3 से 4,000 रुपए महीने का है. फीस देनी पड़ेगी, बस के फीस देनी पड़ती है, साथ में तरह तरह के फेट और फेयर होते हैं, उसके टिकट्स भी खुद ही खरीदने पड़ते हैं. Parents are spending all that money. You save that money for parents and they won't ask you for a free electricity. Electricity bill can be paid out of that bill that I am saving on my schooling. Plus my private schools now have a competition and they will know that government school is doing good. So I will have to teach better than the government school if I want to charge fee and then teach children. And that creates a prosperous competition in the economy. But we have chosen the easy way out. Take the bad thing for free and the rich can take care of themselves. हम तो अब इतने बेशरम हो गए हैं कि हमारे सरकारी अस्पताल स्कूल में लोग डायलॉग देते हैं ऐसा, फ्री में इतना ही मिलेगा, अच्छा चाहिए तो वहां प्राइवेट में चले जाओ. क्या बेशर्मी है सोचिए, फ्री का है ही नहीं, वो हमारे ही पैसे से हमें दे रहे हैं और एहसान भी दिखा रहे हैं. That's a bad idea and that is not inclusion at all. So that is why I was telling you that when it comes to distribution, I hope you're getting the thought process and I'll build upon it. You don't worry, let me teach you more. I'll build upon it, but keep it in mind that if somebody asks you, should we give subsidy or not? The answer is yes, we should. Then the next question is, what is the quality of subsidy we are giving and what kind of subsidies are we giving? What kind of means, are we giving subsidies which will uplift people or are we giving subsidies which will keep people dependent forever? So about subsidies, 3 things I am trying to put in your mind. Number 1, type of subsidy. Number 2, quality of subsidy. And number 3, a study every 4-5 years to study the effectiveness of that subsidy. जैसे दिल्ली में फ्री बिजली मिलती है लोगों को, फ्री इलेक्ट्रिसिटी अप टू 200 यूनिट्स and half price electricity up to 400 units. Now it's been 8 years of this free electricity. At least we can have a study as to whether people have gained, whether we have actually saved electricity, whether poor have been uplifted, so on and so forth, through an independent third party. You understand that? If we can do that, we will get clarity about whether the subsidy is working or not. Because the subsidy bill for electricity in Delhi is 3,200 crore rupees. So we got to understand what are we doing with 3,200 crore rupees. Because you know what it seems like, people on the pavement are not getting this subsidy and they are one of the poorest. जो लोग pavement पे सो रहे हैं उन्हें ये subsidy नहीं मिल रही और वो गरीब लोग हैं देश के. People in the slums are not getting this subsidy. जो लोग स्लम में रह रहे हैं उन्हें ये सब्सिडी नहीं मिल रही, और वो गरीब लोग हैं हमारे सिटी के। आप उनकी बात छोड़िए, आप में से कुछ लोग एक्सपीरियंस करते होंगे दैट इवन द टेनेंट्स डोंट गेट दैट सब्सिडी। द लैंडलॉर्ड इज चार्जिंग यू फॉर इलेक्ट्रिसिटी बिल, but you are not using 200 units in a month. That is certain. So how come that subsidy is for poors then? And again, I am saying that we don't know, so let's know at least. It's 8 years of that subsidy. Let's do a research and find out that are we using this money in the best possible manner? And if we are not using it, let's find the alternative. I can believe you stay on that. So production, consumption, exchange, and distribution. Distribution is a larger set. We consider free education also as economic activity because there is a resource use. Somebody got to pay even if things are free. Okay, then you write below this, two types of activities are classified as non-economic activities. Non-economic activities. They are, and you write 1, all illegal activities. So remember, everything which is illegal will be non-economic automatically. All right, अगर illegal है, भले ही वो value create कर रहा हो, भले ही आप उसे measure भी कर सकते हैं, but उसे non-economic माना जाएगा. All right, so as a rule you keep it in mind. Say for example, gambling is legal in a country, economic. Gambling is illegal in a country, non-economic. All right, so that is non-economic activity. All illegal activities. And number 2 you write, production of services for self-consumption. Production of services for self-consumption. For example, a teacher teaching his own child, comma, a doctor treating her own parents, comma, services of homemaker, etc. These are activities which create value. These are activities which create value, but which cannot be measured, or estimated. I hope you're getting the point. I'll give you the example. When I'm teaching you in the classroom right now, it's a professional activity going on. The data can be collected very easily and the estimates can be done easily. But if I am at my home teaching my son, then when did I teach him? Say, for example, there can be an IPL match going on. I'm watching the match and my son comes in, says, I want to solve these 2 numericals. I solve it for him and say, okay, go. Now I taught him, but that was not a professional activity. You understand that? Sometimes I can be talking to him and I can be teaching him. That is again not a professional activity. Such things are very difficult to measure because the efforts are very different. Similarly, when I said doctor treating her own father. Now, if the doctor is in the hospital, then it's possible she might wait for a nursing staff to come and give medicine or give injection to the patient. But if it is her own father, she will not be waiting for a nursing staff to do that. So again, the efforts become different. You understand that? So when we talk about activities, economic activities, measurement is important, estimation is important. Services of homemaker, as I told you, similar challenge, that a mother cooking food or a mother cleaning for her children is something that, or taking care of her children, or a father taking care of his child, very difficult to measure the effort and compare it to a professional activity. You understand that? So services for self-consumption not included as economic activity. Put a note below that and write all production of commodity, make it commodities. All production of commodities for self-consumption is considered as economic activity. Remember, this is important. आप वहां भी लिख लो. For example, if a farmer grows a crop and consumes it, if a farmer grows a crop and consumes it himself, then it is still economic activity. It is still economic activity. So remember, production of services for self-consumption, not an economic activity. But production of commodities for self-consumption, economic activity. Are you clear on this? All right. Exam point of view से कैसे सोचना है? In the prelims exam, they can either give you a statement like this, all right, and then ask you to judge if it is true or false, or they can give you example, like say a doctor treating her father, teacher teaching in a classroom, and then they will ask you choose which one is economic activity, which one is not economic activity. So again, I repeat, all illegal activities non-economic, and all activities of services for self-consumption non-economic. All production, consumption, exchange, and distribution which are legal and which are not services for self-consumption then become economic activities. Is everybody clear on that? Okay. Now you write the next question. You write, what is economics? What is economics? Now, when we say what is economics, yes, sure. Could you ask me this again? That will be included. The tangible commodity, intangible will be services. Tangible part will be included. The non-tangible is difficult to include. Like, I'll give you an example. Not included. And services are intangible? Right. Say, I'll give you an example. The estimation of crop grown by the farmer is possible. If I grow 10 kg potato, I can easily estimate what is the value of that 10 kg potato. The challenge is estimating the effort of the farmer in growing that 10 kg potato. You understand that? So the challenge is in the non-tangible part. How do you estimate it? All right. Okay. Coming to this now, when they say what is economics, now there are multiple definitions of economics, but we will use the NCERT definition. All right, we'll go by that. So we say economics is the study of making choices in the presence of scarcity. The problem of choice arises because human wants, that is desires, are unlimited and resources, that is means to produce, are limited and they have alternative use. Economics is the study of making choices in the presence of scarcity. The problem of choice arises because human wants are unlimited and resources are limited and they have alternative use. All right, that is the definition we provide. Uh, Sibasis, we will do one thing. We will be discussing this whole debate on care economy when I'm teaching you inclusive growth. So you will have to just give me some time to do this discussion. It is not necessary that a non-economic activity cannot be debated in public domain. Like when you talk about support to women for their service to home, the debate is happening because to make them financially independent. And that is the idea, that it is a non-economic activity, but that doesn't mean it doesn't create any value, as I made you write. So it creates value, the service of a homemaker, hence the debate. All right, the answer I was giving was that there was a recent debate about giving some money to the homemakers because they are also creating value. If you ask me, this will be an endless debate. The debate will go on. Maybe we can give some stipend to the women, but a better future is if men are taught that household chores is their job too. That is a better solution. कि मेन को सीखना पड़ेगा कि खाना खाने आता है तो बनाने भी आना पड़ेगा, और एक टाइम का खाना वो बना ले तो दूसरे टाइम का उनके जो पार्टनर है वो बना सकते हैं। एक टाइम पे वो कपड़ा धो दें तो दूसरे टाइम पे उनके पार्टनर धो सकते हैं। एक टाइम पे वो झाड़ू मार दें तो दूसरे टाइम पे उनके पार्टनर मार सकते हैं। तो दोनों मिलके बाहर भी काम कर सकते हैं और दोनों मिलके घर में भी काम कर सकते हैं। ऐसा ही डेवलप्ड कंट्री में होता है। So it is not that men can't work. Men can work. It is just the patriarchal system in which we exist that the men are given that space. That space should be taken away, if you ask me. And then women can work outside and men can work outside, and there will be no need of a debate as to whether women should be paid for doing household work. I mean, believe me, this debate is endless. अभी जैसे वापस बैक बर्नर पे चला गया, कोई इसकी चर्चा नहीं कर रहा, फिर किसी को सूझेगा, शुरू हो जाएंगे, विमेन को पैसा मिलना चाहिए। कुछ दिनों में कुछ लोग कह देंगे हाँ चलो 2,000 रुपए दे देते हैं, 3,000। बट वर्क इज नॉट ओनली मनी, नो, वर्क इज एंटायर आइडेंटिटी. So it's about achieving my career goals. It is about creating an identity for myself outside my household place, and so on and so forth. So whether man or woman, why should anybody be deprived of that identity? So that is very important that society thinks like that, rather than saying that, okay, let's compensate the women for doing household chores. Maybe in the short run, for a small period of time, we can do that. But over the period, the society has to train both males and females in a manner where both do household chores and both work outside. आप कहेंगे नहीं सर किसी को हायर कर लेंगे काम करने को, ये कॉस्टली होता जाएगा धीरे धीरे इंडिया में. As people get educated, as people get uplifted, you won't be able to find house helpers and servants and so on. So in that case, again, the training should be of the people that they do their own work themselves. It doesn't take a lot of time. अगर घर में 3 कमरे हैं, एक आदमी 1.5 कमरे की सफाई कर दे, एक आदमी 1.5 कमरे की कर दे, या बारी बारी से 2 कमरे और 1 कमरे की कर दे, घर का काम हो गया. एक दिन एक आदमी खाना बना दें, दूसरे दिन दूसरे आदमी खाना बना दें, एक बार में पूरे दिन भर का खाना बना के रेफ्रिजरेटर में रख दे, खा लें, काम हो गया. इसके लिए ये क्यों बोलना कि नहीं नहीं मैं तो मेल हूं, मैं खाना नहीं बना सकता. खेत में जाके थोड़ी हल चला रहे हैं. अब तो सब लोग ऑफिस जा रहे हैं, ये अजीब अजीब बात की जाती है. नो, men are sturdy, that is why men are allowed to work outside. True, but there were days of war and agriculture, no? That was 17th century, 18th century, 19th century. Today is the day of office and working on a laptop. So where does sturdiness and bulwark come in? तुम्हें पढ़ाने के लिए मुझे मसल बना के थोड़ी आना है. तो उसके लिए मैन और वुमेन का डिफरेंस कहां से आया? सो इफ द सोसाइटी कैन बी एजुकेटेड लाइक दैट, that men and women can both share the work and get things done, then this whole challenge will not arise as to whether women should be given money for household chores and so on. Everybody does household chores and everybody will be working outside, and that makes a more settled system. And take it as that, rather than assuming that one day we'll be able to give some money to our women who are working at home. That day, even if we give money, the problem will be we won't be still justifying the loss of career. अब कभी कभी सोच के देखिए, a mother would say, I'm using the word mother because it's generally women who do this activity. So the mother would grow up the child, वो बच्चे बड़े हो गए, अब वो बच्चे फ्लाई आउट कर गए, मदर का काम बच्चों के प्रति समाप्त हो गया, क्या करें अब वो? हस्बैंड को बोल रहे हैं भाई बच्चे तो चले गए बाहर, अभी क्या करें? हस्बैंड बोल रहे हैं कुछ काम ढूंढ लो. अब 45 ईयर्स की एज में क्या काम ढूंढे? 20 में तो आपने करने नहीं दिया. एंड फाइनेंशियल इंडिपेंडेंस इज इक्वली इंपॉर्टेंट, बिकॉज मेल्स कैन समटाइम्स से दिस दैट तुम्हें काम करने की जरूरत नहीं है, वट एवर इज माइन इज योर्स. तो फिर लिख के दो, पुट इट ऑन अ पेपर. बैंक अकाउंट विमेन के नाम पे होना चाहिए, हाउस विमेन के नाम पे होना चाहिए, कार विमेन के नाम पे होना चाहिए. Then whatever is mine is yours, no? Otherwise, while taking strong decisions of life, I can always invoke it. दोनों का एक बच्चा हुआ, बच्चा बड़ा हुआ, बच्चे ने बोला मैं तो पढ़ना चाहता हूं ह्यूमैनिटीज. मदर बोले हाँ बेटा पढ़ लो, अच्छा करोगे, तुम्हें इंटरेस्ट है उसमें. फादर बोले नहीं तुम्हें करना है इंजीनियरिंग. मदर बोले अरे पढ़ने दो ह्यूमैनिटीज, इसका मन है. मेरे पास इन चीजों के लिए पैसे नहीं है. अभी कल तक बोल रहे थे ऑल दैट इज माइन इज योर्स, अभी बोल रहे हैं मेरे पास इन चीजों के लिए पैसे नहीं है. सो रिमेंबर, वी नीड टू सेव पीपल अराउंड अस. इट्स इंपॉर्टेंट वी एम्पावर, एज आई कीप सेइंग. सो द आइडिया इज वेरी सिंपल. The men can do household chores and the men can work outside, and women can do household chores and women can work outside. It's a very normal world to live in. There is nothing exceptional about it. If we can do it like that, we are in a very good domain then. All right, so that is the general answer if you ask me about what is the cure to women suffering if they are working as homemakers. The cure is simple, let everybody work. Women के work करने का एक और फायदा होगा. बहुत बार men suffer करते हैं, दिन भर काम करके लौटे, विमेन ने बाहर काम किया नहीं है तो बोलते हैं आ गए घूम कर, अब मुझे भी घुमाने ले चलो. मैन बेचारा घूम कर आया ही नहीं है तो वो दुखी है. बट विमेन को एक्सप्लेन करना मुश्किल है कि मैं घूम कर नहीं आया, क्योंकि विमेन ने कभी देखा ही नहीं कि बाहर जाके क्या क्या होता है, व्हाट काइंड ऑफ प्रेशर ऑफ वर्क क्रिएट्स. सो इट ऑल लुक्स अ फैंसी थिंग सिटिंग एट होम. जैसे ऑफिस गए, ऑफिस में पैसा कमाया, ऐसा कुछ फाइल साइन किए. वो तो जब आप ऑफिस जाना शुरू करते हो तो पता चलता है अरे ये सिरदर्दी है. सो लेट देम डू दैट एंड सी द हेडेक. दे विल बी मोर रिस्पेक्टफुल टू ईच अदर देन. इफ अ मैन कुक्स एंड अ वुमन वर्क्स आउटसाइड, बोथ ऑफ देम विल अप्रिशिएट व्हाट द अदर वन इज डूइंग एंड दे विल बी रिस्पेक्टफुल. तो वो कहेंगे हाँ भाई, मैन को भी पता चलेगा कि बर्तन धोने में कमर दर्द करता है और हाथ में दर्द होता है, और विमेन को भी पता चलेगा कि बाहर जाते हैं तो 4 लोग सिर भी खाते हैं, डांट भी पड़ती है, क्लाइंट भी बदतमीजी कर सकते हैं, दोनों एक दूसरे से ज्यादा प्यार से रह सकते हैं. So that is the way, if you ask me, the social system should be allowed to develop rather than classifying roles like 18th, 19th century. This is 21st century. Let's grow up, I guess. Anyways, let's see this then.
Why this differentiation that services for self-consumption are kept out of the definition of economic activities while the commodities for self-consumption are included?
Okay, so commodities, the measurement is easy. You can easily find out what is the value of 10 kg potato, whether I consume it myself or I sell it in the market. But services, you can't find the value. As I told you, estimating the value of me teaching my own son, if you say that, okay, sir, if you teach for 20 minutes, just take it as per minute money that you get from next IAS, that is the 20-minute value. A, very difficult to estimate, because then, as I told you, I may be teaching him with an IPL going on. B, even if you can estimate, how do you find out when did I teach, when I did not? You understand that? So that is why estimation is difficult, even though value is created. So services for self-consumption not included. All right. Okay, let's go further on this then. So I made you write, Economics is the study of making choices in the presence of scarcity, and the problem of choice arises because human wants or desires are unlimited and means to satisfy them, that is, resources, are limited, and the resources have alternative use. I will explain this to you, but I'll just write one more line to complete my talk. That is, scarcity means that a commodity or a service is lesser in amount than what is required. Scarcity means that a commodity or a service is lesser in amount than what is required. अगर कोई चीज आप कहते हैं कमी है, देखो स्कैर्सिटी का उल्टा क्या होता है? सरप्लस. The opposite of scarcity is surplus. So when is something in surplus? When it is more than what is needed. And similarly, when is something in scarcity? When it is less than what is needed. You understand that? And it can change over a period. But let's understand one by one things. So we say economics is the study of making choices. Now, making choices means a very simple thing: prioritizing. All right, that you have to prioritize. Now go back to the example on subsidy that I was giving you, that if I don't have money to pay for everything free, then I will have to prioritize what should be given and what should not be given. Making a choice. You understand that? In the presence of scarcity, because the resources are limited. So I got to make a choice. Take for example, time. टाइम आपके पास अभी लिमिटेड हो गया जब आप यूपीएससी की तैयारी शुरू की है, तो आपको चॉइस करना पड़ता है ना, हाउ मच टाइम डू आई एलोकेट टू स्टडी, हाउ मच टाइम डू आई एलोकेट टू माई स्लीप, हाउ मच टाइम डू आई एलोकेट टू माई एंटरटेनमेंट एंड एक्सेट्रा. You understand that? Now you are making a choice because of scarcity of time. ऐसा चॉइस आप याद करिए कॉलेज के दिनों में नहीं करना पड़ता था, टाइम ही टाइम था. तो रहता था चलो लाइफ अच्छी चल रही है, बहुत वक्त है मेरे पास. बट जैसे आप तैयारी करना शुरू किए, आपका टाइम कंस्ट्रेंट बनने लगता है, एंड यू स्टार्ट कॉम्प्रोमाइजिंग ऑन वन थिंग, डूइंग वन थिंग मोर. यू स्टार्ट फीलिंग द पिंच. कह रहे अर्थ अगर 30 आवर्स में रोटेट करता तो और अच्छा होता, rather than 24 odd hours. So this is the basic idea of things becoming scarce. So the choice has to be made because human wants are unlimited. Because remember, even as we become rich, it doesn't mean that satiation will happen. As we become rich, the wants become more. You understand that? अभी मुझे ये भी चाहिए, मुझे वो भी चाहिए. Again, prioritize करना पड़ता है. So you have to prioritize, this should be bought or that should be bought. So human wants are unlimited, and means to satisfy them, the resources are limited resources, and the resources have alternative use. For example, I can use steel to make utensils, and I can use steel to make arms and ammunitions, and I can use steel to make railway wagons, I can use steel to make furniture. So, and I don't have infinite steel. So again, I will have to do what? Allocate it. How much steel for railway wagon, how much for furniture, how much for, say, arms and ammunitions, etc. So resources are finite, resources have alternative use, and human desires are unlimited. क्वेश्चन कैसे पूछेंगे आपसे कभी कभी? वो कहेंगे, यही स्टेटमेंट दे देंगे, ह्यूमन डिजायर्स आर अनलिमिटेड, resources are finite, resources have alternative use, and then they will say, how many of these statements are explaining the reasons for problem of choice arising in an economy? Only one, only two, only three, none of the above. That kind of option can be given to you. Do you understand that? That is the way they can ask us things in the prelims exam. कि prelims में इसी तरह से पूछ सकते हैं हमें कि इन्हीं इसके knowledge है या नहीं तुम्हें, वो check कर लेंगे. And then of course what the idea of scarcity is a global idea. कोई country कितने भी अमीर हो जाए, scarcity फिर भी face करेंगे. क्यों? Because human wants are unlimited. So even if you become rich, the scarcity will still be felt. So you write below that, economies all over the world economies all over the world face the problem of choice, face the problem of choice, and it is called, within inverted comma you write, central problems of an economy. Central problems of an economy. Central problems of an economy. After a full stop you write, these are, these are, and you write A, what to produce, put a dash and write, it considers, it considers the problem of choice, it considers the problem of choice related to, related to which commodity to produce, which commodity to produce, and in what amount. For example, whether to produce, whether to produce food or machine, or whether to produce, whether to produce guns or butter, etc. Okay, so this is our first problem that comes in. The first problem is what to produce. Now, what to produce means which commodity to produce and in what amount. Remember, when we say which commodity to produce, it doesn't mean you will produce only one commodity and you will not produce the other. It means you have to prioritize what to produce, what is more needed, and what can be more easily supplied. You understand that? So that is the whole priority you have to check again, because you cannot produce as a nation maybe everything that you would like to. So that is why what to produce, which commodity to produce. अब मैंने तुम्हें कुछ typical examples दिए, जैसे food और machine. तो food किसके लिए use होंगे? Consumption के लिए. और machine किसके लिए use होगा? Further production के लिए. So do I plan to consume more or do I plan to create production capacity? Or guns and butter. That is, do I want to produce for wartime or do I want to produce for peacetime? You understand that? So these are the choices economic systems got to make. And how do you exist in that then? All right. In the same thing then, you write B, how to produce, how to produce, again put a dash and write, it considers, it considers the problem of choice, the problem of choice related to, related to the technique of production, technique of production, and type of raw material, type of raw material which can be used during production. For example, whether to produce labor intensive whether to produce labor produce with I'm sorry whether to produce with labor intensive technology. I'm repeating myself. For example, whether to produce with labor intensive technology, in a bracket you please write, using more workers than machine. Using more workers than machine. Close the bracket. Or to produce with capital intensive technology. With capital intensive technology. In a bracket you write, using more machines than workers. Using more machines than workers. I can give you a very simple example. If I am using 50 workers to harvest the crop for me and bring it home, that is labor intensive. If I am not using 50 workers, I'm using say 2 or 3 workers, and I'm using a harvesting machine and then harvesting the crop and bringing them home, then I'm using a method which is capital intensive. You understand that? That is the idea of labor intensive and capital intensive. So, labor intensive will mean using more workers, less machine, and capital intensive will mean using more machine and less workers. All right. Again, it's a problem of choice. Which kind of economy should choose what? So more populated system will tend to choose labor intensive, and more or less populated and more rich systems will tend to choose capital intensive. Interestingly, you see that happening in India in the unorganized kind of sectors. You will see many people still not using dishwashers. They are rather using a helper to wash dishes for them. आप समझ रहे हैं? बर्तन धोने की मशीन लोग नहीं यूज करते, किसी को रख लेते हैं, वो उनके बर्तन धो दिए क्योंकि वो चीपर है. But interestingly, the same pattern is not observed in larger industries in India. And I'll give you the reason why it is not, but I'm just putting it in your mind that that's very interesting, that India is a labor surplus country and still our industrialists prefer using a machine rather than workers. And one big reason for that happening is very rigid labor laws that exist in India. ये आपको पढ़ाऊंगा मैं एम्प्लॉयमेंट पढ़ाते हुए, पर चूंकि मैंने कहा तो बस एक्सप्लेन कर रहा हूं. टेक एन एग्जाम्पल. सपोज मैं आपके घर आकर आपका घर झाड़ू पोछा कर देता हूं और आपके बर्तन धो देता हूं. एग्जाम्पल दे रहा हूं. कुछ लोग उम्मीद से देख रहे हो. अच्छा, कब आओगे बताओ. But anyway, so say I come to your place, I mop your house and I clean your utensils. Now I come to you tomorrow and I tell you that I am under Industrial Disputes Act now. So after today, you will have to give me leave on every weekend. You will also have to give me leave on all national holidays. You will have to give me sick leaves, which will be paid. You will have to give me casual leaves, and you will have to give me unpaid leaves. Apart from that, you will have to contribute 12.5% of my basic salary into my provident fund account, and I will also contribute accordingly. Also, if you want to replace me, you will have to talk to my trade union, and if you want to remove me, you will have to give me 3 months notice. If you don't give me 3 months notice, then you will have to give me 3 months salary. Next day, you will go buy a dishwasher and a washing machine. So remember, when we make I'm trying to teach you something here. When we make very rigid law, that is not necessarily a good law. एक सख्त कानून जरूरी नहीं एक अच्छा कानून हो. You know, कानून अच्छा होना चाहिए, सख्त होने की जरूरत नहीं है, फिर लोग अपने आप उसको पूरा करेंगे. सो मेक अ गुड लॉ. हमने क्या कर रखा है, some very few people who can get a job in organized sector are fully protected because of this law, sometimes to the extent of being inefficient. Recall your college clerks, you will get the example of inefficiency. अभी तो मुझे नहीं पता आपके साथ क्या होता है. हमारे टाइम पे हमने उन पर एक जोक बनाया था कि 12 से पहले भेंट नहीं और 3 के बाद लेट नहीं. That before 12 you can't see them, after 3 you can't see them, in between there is a 1 hour lunch break. You go to them in the morning, they will say come after lunch. You go to them after lunch, they will say come tomorrow. And by chance in your youthful exuberance you get angry and you tell them मैं complain कर दूंगा, they'll give you a shrug of shoulders and go complain. ये permanent worker है, इनको पता है मुझे कोई हटा ही नहीं सकता, तो तुम कंप्लेन करो, जो मर्जी करो. दिस इज अ चैलेंज फॉर एनी सिस्टम देन. सो व्हाट इज नीडेड इज नॉट अ परमानेंट जॉब, व्हाट इज नीडेड इज अ सिक्योर्ड जॉब, एंड दैट इज व्हाट इज इंपॉर्टेंट. यू नो, अगर मैं आपको अच्छा पढ़ाऊंगा तो मेरे जॉब ऑटोमेटिकली सिक्योर्ड है. द इंस्टीट्यूशन विल हैव टू बी मैड टू रिमूव मी. And even by chance they go mad and remove me, somebody else will take me in because of my good professional performance. So the key factor is make sure that, अब समझिएगा, ये सिखाऊंगा आपको ये बातें फिर से, पर अभी शुरू की टॉपिक तो एक आइडिया दे रहा हूं. अगर मुझे सच में अपने वर्कर्स को बचाना है, if I am a pro worker person and I want to help my workers, number one, train them well. अच्छी ट्रेनिंग देना जरूरी है. So train the workers so that they become efficient. Number two, create more competition so that there are multiple employers in the market and not singular. So then the worker will know that, okay, if one employer is rejecting me, I have multiple other options. And number three, create rules which are transparent and clear with respect to rights and duties of both the worker and the employer. वर्कर के क्या राइट्स एंड ड्यूटीज हैं, क्लियर होने चाहिए. एम्प्लॉयर्स के क्या राइट्स एंड ड्यूटीज हैं, क्लियर होने चाहिए. सो दैट द एम्प्लॉयर कैन नॉट फायर मी एट एनी पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम जस्ट बिकॉज ऑफ देयर ओन इडियोसिंक्रेसी. ये नहीं कि एम्प्लॉयर सुबह सुबह उठे और बोले इसकी शक्ल पसंद नहीं आ रही है, निकालो. दैट शुड नॉट बी हैपनिंग, देन इट मेक्स मी इनसिक्योर्ड. बट अगर आप मुझे परमानेंट बना देंगे तो मैं आपके लिए परमानेंट हेडेक बन सकता हूं by not working at all or choosing not to work, and that's not good for any economic system. अभी तो सरकार के फेवर में ही बोल रहा. Okay, let's see this then. So we take it further. ये तो हमारा चल रहा है ना, this one, perfect. So let's see this up further. Now you write below that C, third part. You write for whom to produce. For whom to produce, put a dash and write, it is a problem of choice. It is a problem of choice which relates to not only or remove the word not only. आप not only हटा दो, आप लिखो which relates to distribution of goods and services, produced, full stop. For example, whether to produce more of luxury goods whether to produce more of luxury goods or necessities, 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 whether to produce more of luxury goods or necessities, comma, whether to create more income as wage or profit, etc. All right, so that is the challenge of for whom to produce. Think, when you produce more necessities, then you are catering to more to the poors. When you are producing more luxuries, you are catering more to the rich. You understand that? That is the basic idea of for whom to produce. Similarly, अगर आपके इकोनॉमी ग्रो कर रहा है, if the income levels are rising, and if the income levels in the economy are rising because you are able to increase wages in the economy, then remember there can be various class of people earning money in the economy. मैं मान सकता हूं सब लोग मुझे सुन रहे हैं, कोई सोया हुआ नहीं है? ठीक है, कभी कभी होता है 1.5-2 घंटे बीत जाते हैं ना, तो मेरी आवाज दूर से आती दिखेगी, ठीक है? जैसे ही ऐसा होने लगे जग जाना, और बाई चांस सो गए हो, 2-4 मिनट छूट गए क्लास के, तो मुझे हाथ हिला देना, सर मैं चला गया था दूसरी दुनिया में। आई डोंट माइंड दैट एट ऑल, बट नहीं समझो ये मत होने देना, एंड डोंट डू द क्लास लाइक माई मदर यूज टू वॉच मूवीज। ऑलराइट, अब तो मेरे मदर रहे नहीं खैर, पर वो ऐसा करते थे, वो मूवी देखने बैठे, हाफ एन आवर देखे फिर सो गए। Now she is asleep. After 1 hour, she'll wake up. For 10-15 minutes, she will try making sense of what is happening. Then she will get up. फालतू पिक्चर देखते हो तुम लोग, कुछ है ही नहीं इस पिक्चर में, बकवास क्या देखते हो पता नहीं। तो आपके साथ भी ये हो सकता है कि बाई चांस मुझे 20 मिनट सुने, फिर 10 मिनट सो गए, फिर 20 मिनट जागे, फालतू बक रहा है, पता नहीं क्या हुआ। तो मैं नहीं चाहता कि आपको मेरे बारे में अच्छे ख्याल आए। तो अगर बाई चांस सो गए हो तो हाथ वाथ हिला दो कि सर मैं सो गया था, फिर से जब बता दूंगा आपको। जो ऑनलाइन हो वो तो हाथ नहीं हिला सकते, इमोजी भेज देना। but anyways, now what I'm trying to tell you is an economy can have several type of workers, of people earning from various sources. Think, there can be a landlord getting rent, there can be labor getting wage, there can be people with funds lending it out getting interest, whom we call capitalists, and there can be entrepreneurs getting profit. Majority of people do what in an economy? They are workers earning wage, working for entrepreneurs earning profit. If an economic system grows in which wage is growing faster, then that will tend to be solving the problem of for whom to produce better in favor of their workers. While if an economic system grows with a lot of profit income rising, then it may not solve the problem in the favor of the relatively poor. मैं आपको इसका एक इजी एग्जांपल देता हूं। सोचिए डोनाल्ड ट्रंप कितना अच्छा मूर्ख बनाते हैं अमेरिकन को। वो बोलते हैं विल मेक अमेरिका ग्रेट अगेन। नाउ दिस अगेन इज अ वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग टॉक, because when he says we will make America great again, and Americans say, yeah, yo, I mean, the people like that, I've spent 4-5 years of my life with them, very interesting people, they keep making you laugh. But anyways, so but generally speaking, तो लोग खूब रोर करते, yeah, we'll make ourselves great again, MAGA and whatnot. Fair enough. But imagine, Americans have Nvidia, the most valued company. Americans have Microsoft. Americans have Meta, Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram. Americans have Alphabet, Google's parent company. Americans have Apple. So all the major valuable, or say Tesla, so all the major valuable companies of the world are in America, and they say we will make America great again. That's pretty interesting, no? That they will make themselves great again while they are still far ahead as a leading nation of the world. एक चाइनीज बोगी क्रिएट किया गया है कि चाइना से खतरा है। लॉन्ग रन में कभी हो सकता है, बट चाइनीज आर अ $19 ट्रिलियन इकोनॉमी, 17 ट्रिलियन रादर, विद 1.4 बिलियन पीपल। That makes them a $14,000 per capita income. Americans are a comparatively $26 trillion with 300 million people. They are a $70,000 per capita income. I mean, if Chinese have to catch up with the Americans even in per person's income term, Chinese will have to be 5 times larger than America in their GDP terms, which they are not. We hardly see any product which is invented in China becoming globally famous. Chinese can copy wonderfully well. So if you make an iPhone, they can create a Snapdragon. You understand that? You create a Tesla, they can create a BYD. You understand that? But they are not inventing it. So they are not leaders by far. Soft power of China is so weak. How many people are applying for visa to settle down in China? And how many people are applying for visa to settle down in the United States? All this decides your power as a nation. And these guys say, no, 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 we'll make ourselves great again. But why are people buying it in America? America में लोग क्यों खुशी खुशी करे हाँ हाँ we'll make it great again. Reason is simple. In the last 30 years, 32 years, America's GDP has increased from around $12 trillion to $26 trillion. But a majority and a brute majority of that increase is because of income from profit rising and income from wages are almost stagnant. You understand that? So what does it do? People who are workforce, they believe nothing is happening for me. Then what is the best way to win their confidence? I'll make it happen for you and we will make America great again. What does this solve? It doesn't have to then punish your rich. नहीं तो आपको क्या कहना चाहिए? मैं अमीरों से ज्यादा टैक्स लूंगा और वो टैक्स इकट्ठा करके गरीबों को दूंगा. मैं वर्कर्स को ज्यादा सिक्योरिटी दूंगा. लेकिन ये सब आप कहेंगे तो आपके अमीर नाराज हो जाएंगे. Your rich will be upset, then they will not finance your elections. So what is the best way to go about? Say, yeah, it's because of the Chinese and because of the Indians that we are suffering. So maybe if I come to power and I'll close everything down and we'll make ourselves great again. That's wrong diagnosis. ये wrong diagnosis हम बहुत जगह करते हैं. हमारे यहाँ जैसे अभी opposition है. Opposition बोलते हैं that सरकार अदानी अंबानी की है. Fair enough. मान लीजिए सरकार अदानी अंबानी की है तो opposition को क्या बोलना चाहिए? वो जब आएंगे, which rules will they make and amend the constitution so that no future government in India can be of business people? But that will need making political funding wide. Until I am dependent on my finance for elections on a corporate, how do I take decision against corporate, whether opposition or the government? जो भी बोलते हैं मैं भारत से भ्रष्टाचार खत्म करना चाहता हूं, उनसे मेरा सिंपल सवाल होता है कि भाई इलेक्शन कैसे लड़ रहे हो? ये करोड़ों आ कहां से रहे हैं फिर? और ये सिर्फ मैं लोकसभा, राज्यसभा या विधानसभा के इलेक्शन की बात नहीं कर रहा. आप कॉलेज इलेक्शंस देखे होंगे अपने लाइफ में, तो छात्र नेता होते हैं ना, छात्र के जेब में पैसे कहां हैं? पर हमारे छात्र नेताओं के पास इतने पैसे हैं कि पूरा हॉस्टल दारू पीता है. Where is the money coming from? So how do I remove corruption if I am myself a product of that? Understand this. हमारे यहाँ ये दिक्कत है. मैं आपको अभी कुछ बोलूंगा ना, आपको लगेगा बीजेपी का आदमी है, फिर कुछ बोलूंगा लगेगा कांग्रेस का आदमी है. मैं सिर्फ अपना पत्नी का आदमी हूं. आप इस सब कंफ्यूजन में मत जाइए. इंपॉर्टेंट ये है कि आप सिस्टम को समझिए, that unless you don't improve the system, it is not going to give you result. People can take advantage, disadvantage if the system is weak. So the focus should be on always pinpointing, okay, what is it that you promise me, which will be an improvement in the system. It doesn't have to be, brandishing one as corrupt and the other as corrupt, etc. भाई तुम आओगे क्या करोगे ये बताओ मेरे लिए, और जो है उनसे पूछे भाई तुम क्या करोगे कि ये चीजें खत्म हो. ये सवाल पूछने से नहीं होगा. कोई कहते हैं मैं आऊंगा तो एम्प्लॉयमेंट क्रिएट करूंगा, तो उनसे पूछे कैसे? What's your roadmap? If I am opposition, I'm not, neither am I government, but if I am opposition, what I would rather do is work hard, and on the budget day, I will be present with an alternative budget. And I will call a press conference that same evening and say, look, this is finance minister's budget, and this is my budget, and this is how my budget is better than her budget. So this is my proposal, you bring me to power and I'll do this for the country. and this is my plan of doing it. So once we start developing that system, then you make things better. Unless the system is not developed, फिर तो जब तक चुनाव चलेंगे तब तक एक दूसरे के ऊपर पत्थर वत्थर चलेंगे, ये करप्ट है, वो करप्ट है, इनको जेल जाना चाहिए, उनको जेल जाना चाहिए. एक बार चुनाव खत्म हो जाता है फिर कोई जेल नहीं जाता है, सब अपने अपने जगह पे. हम लोग अपना ट्विटर पे 3-4 बार नहीं, आजकल तो एक्स हो गया है, उस पर 3-4 बार जान दे देते हैं अपनी. But that is what we need to understand, that ultimately whom are we fighting for then? So be very careful when we talk about the mechanisms, any of which, for whom to produce is a very important challenge of central problem. That is, how do you distribute what you have produced, and how do you distribute depends on for whom are you creating income. That is more very important. And what kind of products are you producing so that people have the availability. Please go back now half an hour, 1 hour in our class when I was telling you that as long as we don't give good basic education, as long as we don't give clean drinking water, as long as we don't give nutrition, how do we think our poor will be uplifted? विकसित भारत बाय 1947 2047 सब नाच रहे हैं हम लोग, विकसित भारत बाय 2047. अच्छी बात भी है. जब मैं भी यूएस से लौट के आया था तो यही मन में था कि अपनी कंट्री को डेवलप्ड देखूंगा, इनको कंट्रीब्यूट क्यों करूं, और वो फीलिंग तो आज भी है. खैर वो कहीं नहीं गई है. बट पॉइंट इज, अ डेवलप्ड नेशन नीड्स टू हैव डेवलप्ड पीपल. अगर मैं कहता हूं आई विल मेक अ विकसित भारत बाय 2047, तो जो बच्चे आज 4-5 साल के हैं, 3 साल के हैं, 2 साल के हैं, those who are 2, 3, 4, 5 years old kid, they will be the youth in those days, no? Say 20, 21, 22 years later. And if these kids are not getting good education and they are roaming around on the road and they are not getting good nutrition and their brain development is not complete, what kind of workforce we are looking at 22 years later? How will that make us a developed nation? So the journey begins today. So the question should begin today. भाई कैसे इनको न्यूट्रिशन दें, एजुकेशन दें, so that we can upgrade. You get the point? You know what I was trying to teach you? One point about, अभी आगे चल के और भी बातें डिस्कस करेंगे, that what are the challenges to India becoming a developed nation by 2047. One challenge is lack of human resource development. यू अंडरस्टैंड दैट? तो जब मैं आपसे बात करूं आप समझते रहिएगा जरूर, मैं समझाता भी रहता हूं, उम्मीद है आप समझ रहे होंगे. मैं हर बात को मैप कर दूंगा कि मैं किस मतलब से ये बोल रहा था. बट व्हेन आई एम टेलिंग यू थिंग्स, अनलेस वी डोंट गेट इट, वो चीखना चिल्लाना लगे कि देश इनइक्वालिटी बढ़ रही है. ये बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग टॉक है. आप फिर एक रीजन आउट करिए, फिर आगे बढ़ते हैं यहां से. इंडिया व्हेन वी बिकेम इंडिपेंडेंट वाज अ रूरल इकोनॉमी और एन अर्बन इकोनॉमी? रूरल. दैट्स अ वेरी नॉर्मल आंसर टू गिव कि हम लोग जब आजाद हुए तो गांव ज्यादा थे देश में, रहे, ठीक है. व्हाट इज द मेजर सोर्स ऑफ वेल्थ इन अ रूरल इकोनॉमी? लैंड और शेयर मार्केट, फैक्ट्रीज, कंपनीज? लैंड. Was land distributed equally by the Britishers in India, or was it very unequal? Then we tried doing land reforms. Did we succeed or we did not succeed much? And then we claim that we are becoming unequal. We have always been unequal. Try understanding that. आजादी के पहले से लेकर आज तक अनइक्वल है भाई, और जबरदस्त अनइक्वल है. क्योंकि जिनके पास लैंड था पहले वो सब बहुत अमीर थे और बाकी के लोग गरीब थे. आप आज भी अपने गांव जाइए. When I go to my village, it's a small village in Bihar. You even today go to your village and you would see that the village will have 1 or 2 people who will control 70%, 75% of the land, and the rest of the village moves around their family. That's inequality. You don't need to see Adani, Ambani and Tatas for inequality. This is inequality first hand. And we hardly talk about it. But that is what has to be remedied also. Unless we don't remedy it, there will be trouble with respect to inequality. So if somebody says, is inequality rising in India? We will debate that. You will have to give me 2-3 classes for that. But inequality rising in India has to be understood in the context of where was India 30, 40, 50 years ago. And then check, is it rising or it is becoming more, metamorphosized? कि मेटामॉर्फोसिस ज्यादा दिख रहा है या सच में हो रहा है वो इनइक्वालिटी? क्योंकि पहले हम में से मैक्सिमम लोग गरीब थे, तो सब गरीब सब बराबर. आप आज स्टूडेंट लाइफ में हैं, सब बराबर. कोई अगर बोलेंगे भी मेरे पास तो आईफोन है, तेरा थोड़ी है, तेरे पापा का है, तुम्हारी औकात तो इसमें सिम कार्ड डलवाने की नहीं, तो तुम ऐसे बोल सकते हो. लेकिन 20 years later things might be different. You understand that? So this is the key factor to understand, that inequality can look large in a country as the country starts becoming richer, and that is what should be tackled. ये नहीं कि इसको छोड़ देना चाहिए कि हाँ ठीक है फिर इक्वल ही रहे, not at all. But then sometimes the country can look more equal because majority are poor and therefore it looked equal while very few would be very rich. I was watching a movie in which Amitabh Bachchan ji was acting. अमर अकबर एंथनी शायद नाम थी उस पिक्चर का. उसमें वो एक यूएसपीए का जैकेट पहन के एक गाना गा रहे थे. तो मैंने अपने वाइफ को बोला भी, उन्होंने कहा देखो ये ब्रांडेड जैकेट्स एंड ऑल रिच के लिए उस जमाने में भी था, जो मिडिल क्लास थे उनको अफोर्डेबल नहीं था. देन शी सेड दैट यू शट अप एंड लेट मी वॉच द मूवी. So I shut up. But when you see those movies, you will realize that there were branded clothes for rich, there was imported car for the rich. It was just that majority of India was left poor. And obviously then when you measure inequality, it will look equal. You understand that? So this is a challenge to keep in mind. Actually, my next topic with you will be talk on inclusive growth. So I keep peppering your mind for that. But do keep these things in mind to have a more holistic and informed view about what is happening in the system rather than having a truncated view. You should not be having that. Anyways, let's take the story further now. अब आप next question लिखिए. You write, what is opportunity cost? What is opportunity cost? Now see, there are three ways of looking at opportunity cost. तीन तरीके हैं जिससे आप opportunity cost के बारे में बात कर सकते हैं. Three ways of looking at opportunity cost. I'll do it one by one. This was a question that was asked also by UPSC in one of the prelims exam. So we'll do the discussion one by one. So first way is a basic definition that opportunity cost is the sacrifice of next best or second best alternative to choose the best possibility. That is the basic idea of opportunity cost, and the key word is sacrifice. आपने क्या छोड़ दिया किसी और चीज को लेने के लिए, तो जो भी आपने छोड़ा वो आपका opportunity cost था. मैं आपको कुछ examples दूंगा, you'll get my point better as I give you some examples. So let's say we take an example. Suppose if somebody says that okay, you value your career choice, and suppose they give you three options. They say okay, career as a civil servant, career in music, and career in sports. All right, and you are told you value these career choice. Now you go ahead and you say okay, I value civil services as 100, I value music as 80, and I value sports as 90. I'm randomly picking numbers. Now in that case, automatically which is your best choice? You value this the highest, so you will go for choosing this. Now imagine, God willing, you become a civil servant. 20 years later, if somebody asks you, what would you do if you were not a civil servant? And you would say, oh, I could have been a sports person. You understand that? Because this is the second best that you are leaving to choose the best that you are taking. Is everybody getting the point I'm making? तो sacrifice मतलब ये मत सोचना कि बलिदान दे दिया कोई. Sacrifice का मतलब what did you give up to get what you got? What you are getting you value higher, but you gave up something to get what you get, and that is the opportunity cost. So whatever is the sacrifice you are making in order to achieve your best alternative, one way to understand opportunity cost. You understand this? Think now. 3200 crore rupees as electricity subsidy in Delhi. So, what is it that are the alternatives I can do? They are the sacrifices I am making to give this subsidy to my people. So, that will decide the opportunity cost. Also, remember, different people can define opportunity costs in different ways. For example, suppose you go to watch a movie and say the movie is a bad movie. जरूरी नहीं कि सिर्फ बड़े मियाँ छोटे मियाँ हो, मतलब कोई भी पिक्चर हो सकती है, ठीक है? तो मान लीजिए आप एक पिक्चर देखने गए और बहुत ही खराब पिक्चर देखी आपने. अब आपका अपॉर्चुनिटी कॉस्ट डिसाइड करेगा कि आप कैसे एक्सप्लेन कर रहे हैं. सो वाइल कमिंग आउट ऑफ द मूवी यू माइट से, आई वेस्टेड 500 rupees of mine. That means the opportunity cost you had was 500 rupees to watch this movie. Or you might say, I wasted 3 hours of mine. So the opportunity cost can be time, the opportunity cost can be money. It depends on what is your second best. The best according to you was to watch movie, so you went ahead and watched it. But then you were dissatisfied, and now when you are dissatisfied, you are thinking about your second best that you could have had if you had not watched the movie. So it can be either 3 hours, it can be 500 rupees, and so on. That is the whole idea of opportunity cost. Why do we study it? What's the need? It's a very key factor in economic decision making. अभी आप क्या सीख रहे थे? Problem of choice. Every time you make a problem, solve the problem of choice, you are incurring an opportunity cost. You understand that? Should I attend the class or should I sleep? Some of you can try doing both. But that apart. Or should I watch a movie or I attend a class? You understand that? All that is the comparison, and every time there is an opportunity cost. Should I apply for civil services or should I do my masters? Again, you have taken an opportunity cost and you say, okay, I'll write my civil services and I'm not doing my masters. So there is opportunity cost to everything. Now please go back to the example when I said a school given for free, but that doesn't mean that the resources I used for school did not have an opportunity cost. You understand that? The resources I'm using for school, they had their opportunity cost, and I have to judge whether the school is the best choice or something alternative can be better. Is everybody getting my point? Okay, now I am giving you an example. This is the second way of looking at opportunity cost. एक तो ये तरीका है, second best को opportunity cost बोलते हैं. एक दूसरा तरीका होता है opportunity cost को समझने का. There's another way in which you can look at opportunity cost. So I'm creating an example for you, and then I will ask you a question, you answer. My example is, suppose we have this person. You bear with my drawing abilities, मैं ऐसे ही इंसानी रूपी कॉकरोच बनाता हूं. तो मान लीजिए हमारे पास ये पर्सन है और इनका नाम हमने रख दिया बेनिफिशियरी. अब ये बेनिफिशियरी के कुछ बच्चे हैं, ये अपना एक स्कूल में जाते हैं फ्री एजुकेशन के लिए. So there's a beneficiary and the beneficiary has kids and these kids go to school for education. But as I said that the school will need expenditure to be done. So suppose government ने क्या किया? Government says okay, they pick up a taxpayer and they tell the taxpayer, look, we are imposing a tax on you, and whatever is your tax amount will be used to give benefit to these children. You get the story here? I am now giving you a statement and you tell me if that statement is true or false. The statement is the opportunity cost of free education by government has been shifted from the beneficiary to the taxpayer. You find it true? For those of you who feel a little bothered, understand it like this. Opportunity cost means the sacrifice. Okay. If this education was not free, then to educate these children, who will have to make the sacrifice? The beneficiary. But now since the education is free, the beneficiary doesn't have to make that sacrifice. In his place, who has to make the sacrifice? So the sacrifice has been shifted from the beneficiary to the taxpayer. And that sacrifice is nothing but opportunity cost of free education. Is everybody getting my point? This was the question that UPSC had asked you in 2017. Of course, minus these people. इसमें एक बात और आप समझिएगा, beneficiary and taxpayer can be same people also at a point of time. I can be a taxpayer and my son can get educated in a government university, so I can be a beneficiary of education. I can also be a taxpayer. मैंने जानबूझ के सेग्रीगेट किया कि आपका विजन क्लियर रहे कि अच्छा, क्योंकि समझिए जब मैं टैक्स पेयर हूं तो एक रोल प्ले कर रहा हूं और जब मैं बेनिफिशियरी हूं तो दूसरा रोल प्ले कर रहा हूं. You understand that? So beneficiary and taxpayer, the role is different. They can be same people, there is no problem with that. But the moral of the story is that any free government service, the opportunity cost is shifted from beneficiary to the taxpayer. That is the basic idea here. Correct, true is the right answer. Fair enough. Okay. Okay. I hope this is clear also. तो एक तरीका क्या हुआ अपॉर्चुनिटी कॉस्ट समझने का, सेकंड बेस्ट देखें, विच वॉज द सेकंड बेस्ट सैक्रिफाइस्ड. दूसरा तरीका क्या हुआ अपॉर्चुनिटी कॉस्ट समझने का, हु मेड द सैक्रिफाइस एंड हु गॉट सेव्ड फ्रॉम इट. So this fellow gets saved from the sacrifice which this person has to make. So the opportunity cost is shifted from this person to this person.
If two choices have the same opportunity cost, how does one decide? Like to go to see a movie for 500 rupees and maybe engaging in a similar activity for 500 only. So
And you value them equally.
yes, sir, exactly.
Fair enough. That will depend on then at that point of time what is your desire taking you towards.
So what will be the opportunity cost? This other which we sacrifice.
Other one which you sacrifice. Somewhere it has to be the second best, hence you sacrificed. You understand that? Somewhere it has to be that. The second best, hence you sacrificed.
So it will not be predicated on monetary value.
No, no, no. It is dependent. See, even when I said value on the previous slide, I never meant monetary alone. All right, it could be anything. It could be your social stature. It could be job security. It could be your ambition in life. You understand that? All that decides the value. Value is not monetary alone.
So ultimately, the one which is not being chosen over the other becomes the opportunity.
It has to be because it had to be somewhere second best, hence not chosen. All right. We may have a tendency to say that it's equal, but somewhere there exists a fine, very fine, maybe the limit in the neighborhood zero, but a very fine difference, of two things to be ranked.
So that means the opportunity cost may be different for different people.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Your opportunity cost of something can be different from mine. Your choice can be different from mine. You understand that? That maybe what is second best for you is the best for me, and what is second best for me is best for you. And we can surely differ. That is what we call this subject, which I'm teaching you right now. This is micro part of economics. That we are studying individuals. That how individuals will behave, how individual companies will do things, how factories work, how single commodities operate. That is the whole idea of micro, that everybody will have their own method. Okay. Then there is another concept related to opportunity cost. I'm taking you into that. For understanding that concept, I am introducing this concept to you. It's called production possibility curve. In some books, they also write it as production possibility frontier. So it's one and the same, whether you call it PPC or you call it PPF. We will keep calling it PPC otherwise, but production possibility curve or production possibility frontier. Now, within this, it is defined as PPC represents all possible combinations of two commodities, all possible combinations of two commodities that an economy can produce after using all its resources and at a given level of technology. PPC represents all possible combinations of two commodities that an economy can produce after using all its resources and at a given level of technology. Let's understand it and I'll explain it to you. First of all, when I use the word production possibility curve, it implies what is the possibility that you have of your maximum production capacity. अगर आप अपने सारे रिसोर्सेज यूज कर लें फॉर अ गिवन टेक्नोलॉजी तो मैक्सिमम दो कमोडिटीज की क्या प्रोड्यूस कर पाएंगे दैट इज रिफ्लेक्टेड बाय पीपीसी दैट इज वाई प्रोडक्शन पॉसिबिलिटी what are your production possibilities if you use all your resources with a fixed technology. That if we keep the technology fixed and then you use all your resources, then what is the maximum that you can produce of the two commodities is reflected by production possibility curve. So what does it show? All possible combinations of two commodities. Now we keep saying two commodities because we will draw a two-dimensional diagram. If we draw n-dimensional diagram, n commodities, that kind of a thing. So all possible combinations of two commodities that an economy can produce using all its resources at a given point of time. When we say using all its resources, it means everything used in the most efficient manner. Alright? तो एक तरह से वो क्या बता रहा है? The maximum capacity of the economy. You understand that? That is my maximum capacity and then maybe where am I compared to my maximum capacity? कि ये तो मेरी maximum capacity है, अब इसके comparison में मैं कहाँ हूँ is what you need to judge say. So let's create a hypothetical example and that will help you understand the idea of PPC also. So let us say that if an economy can produce food or clothes, all right, let's just take an example that an economy can produce either food or cloth or say both. Suppose in the beginning the economy is putting all its resource in only food. All right, beginning में economy अपने सारे resource सिर्फ food पे ही लगा रहे हैं. All resource mind you. So if the economy is putting all its resource on only food, then the economy will produce 100 units of food. If the economy is putting all its resource only on food, then the economy will produce, say 100 is my choice, you can pick any number. Say 100 units of food and then how many units of cloth will it produce? 0 because all resources are only on food. Okay. Now suppose the economy decides that we will shift resources away from food and towards cloth. So suppose they produce 1 unit of cloth, will they be able to produce same amount of food or will they have to reduce it? Isn't it? Because if I was putting all the resource on food and then producing 100 unit, now if I want to produce cloth, I will have to shift some resources this side. और जब मैं फूड से रिसोर्स शिफ्ट करूंगा तो क्लॉथ का प्रोडक्शन अपने आप कम हो जाएगा. सो से द क्लॉथ प्रोडक्शन बिकम्स 90. Now suppose I produce second unit of cloth and food production becomes 70. I'm just picking my numbers and I'll explain them to you. Now suppose I produce third unit of cloth and food production becomes 40. And then I pick fourth unit of cloth and food production becomes 0. Alright. Now think, if I claim that these can be combinations on the production possibility curve. I hope you can agree. Because these are all combinations of two commodities that I can produce after using all the resources at a given level of technology. You with me on this? Okay. So if I join these combination, say if I take cloth and I take food and I join these combinations, I get a curve like this, which we call PPC. Now, why do we get a curve like this? I'll explain it to you. But I get a curve like this, which we call PPC. Now, what is the idea here? The idea is, think, अगर मैं आपसे बोलूं the sacrifice that we were doing for first unit of cloth, how many units of food did I sacrifice? 10. Now listen to my question carefully. For the second unit of cloth, how much food did I sacrifice? 20. Mind you, 10 तो पहले ही sacrifice थे ना, सिर्फ दूसरे यूनिट के लिए कितना sacrifice किया? 20 from 90 to 70. So for first unit of cloth, I sacrificed 10 food. For second unit of cloth, I'm not saying for 2 units of cloth. I'm saying for second unit of cloth. मैं ये नहीं कह रहा हूं 2 क्लोथ्स के लिए कितना फूड सैक्रिफाइस करना पड़ा. अगर मैं बोलता 2 क्लोथ्स के लिए कितना फूड सैक्रिफाइस करना पड़ा तो 30. You see that? Sacrifice for 2 clothes is 30. But sacrifice for second unit of cloth is 20. Okay, so we write 20. By same logic, how much is the sacrifice for third unit of cloth? 30, 70 to 40. And how much is the sacrifice for fourth unit of cloth? 40, 40 to 0. समझिएगा एक बात, ये जो कॉलम मैंने ड्रॉ किया, ये कॉलम मुझे क्या बता रहा है? Is this column telling me the total sacrifice of cloth, food for clothes, or is it telling me sacrifice of food for individual units of clothes? Right? We have a name for it. I'll now put it here. We call it marginal opportunity cost. Marginal opportunity cost. इसका मतलब क्या हुआ? The meaning of marginal opportunity cost is the amount of one commodity which is sacrificed to produce extra units of another commodity. The amount of one commodity which is sacrificed to produce extra units of another commodity. That is what we call marginal opportunity cost. Alright, that is what we call marginal opportunity cost. जब भी marginal word दिखे, समझ जाओ वो एक्स्ट्रा यूनिट की बात हो रही है. Alright, there's an extra unit we are talking about. So मैं फिर अपनी बात रिपीट करता हूं that when we say 10, 20, 30, 40, we're saying what? The sacrifice of food for first unit of cloth, an extra unit. Sacrifice of food for second unit of cloth, an extra unit. Sacrifice of food for third unit of cloth, again an extra unit. You see that? अब मैं कुछ एक स्टेटमेंट बोलता हूं, you tell me if you understand this. If I give you a statement that 4 clothes have an opportunity cost of 100 food, I hope you agree on that. So 4 clothes have an opportunity cost of 100 food and 4th cloth had an opportunity cost of 40 food. I hope you get the difference between the two. तो अगर अपॉर्चुनिटी कॉस्ट की बात हो तो टोटल क्या खर्च किए या क्या सैक्रिफाइस किए, और मार्जिनल अपॉर्चुनिटी कॉस्ट की बात हो तो एक इंडिविजुअल यूनिट के लिए आप क्या सैक्रिफाइस किए. If it is marginal opportunity cost, then you are talking about one individual unit. If it is only opportunity cost, then the total sacrifice. For example, the opportunity cost of producing 2 clothes is 30 food, 3 clothes is 60 food. You see that? So opportunity cost means total sacrifice that you make to produce it. Marginal opportunity cost means for a single unit. You clear on this? I now, अच्छा मैं एक बात बोलता हूं, उम्मीद है तुम मेरी बात से अग्री करोगे. अगर मैं क्लेम करूं, if I claim that this marginal opportunity cost is nothing but slope of production possibility curve, I hope you can agree. Slope क्या बताता है? Rate of change. You see that? What is happening here? The rate at which food production will fall due to an increase in cloth production. You understand this? That is why we say marginal opportunity cost is nothing but slope of PPC. Exam point of view से अगर तुम मेरी बात याद भी रख लिए तो I am happy and you should be happy. They will never be testing you on mathematics or technicalities. They will only be testing you on facts. जैसे पूछ लेंगे बहुत से बहुत एक स्टेटमेंट दे देंगे, ट्रू एंड फॉल्स पूछ लेंगे या मैच द फॉलोइंग कर देंगे, एंड दैट विल बी मार्जिनल अपॉर्चुनिटी कॉस्ट बीइंग द स्लोप ऑफ प्रोडक्शन पॉसिबिलिटी कर्व. एंड आई वाज सेइंग that the production possibility curve, when we draw it, looks like this. Now why does it look like this? It looks like this because imagine the marginal opportunity cost that I had taken, 10, 20, 30 and 40, which means what? For every cloth that I produce, I am sacrificing more and more food, isn't it? Think what will happen. Initially, I sacrifice less food, and gradually, as I make more clothes, I am sacrificing more and more food. Can you visualize it? पक्का? ठीक है. अब समझिएगा मैं समझाना क्या चाह रहा हूं यहां, that if marginal opportunity cost is increasing, then production possibility curve will be shaped like this. If marginal opportunity cost was decreasing, अगर ये 10, 20, 30, 40 की जगह 40, 30, 20, 10 होता तो प्रोडक्शन पॉसिबिलिटी कर्व कुछ ऐसा दिख रहा होता ना, कॉन्वेक्स टू द ओरिजिन. और अगर मार्जिनल अपॉर्चुनिटी कॉस्ट कांस्टेंट होता 10 10 10 10 और 20 20 20 20, then PPC would be looking like a straight line. Can you visualize it? Okay, again I repeat, you don't have to draw PPC ever in your exam. आपको एग्जाम पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से ये फैक्ट्स याद रखने हैं. तो मैं अब आपको एक एक करके 3-4 बातें लिखवाऊंगा. These are all factuals which I need you to remember from your exams point of view. So you write one, these are features of PPC. Production possibility curve के features क्या है? All right, so features of PPC, you write first within that, one, PPC is always downward sloping. PPC is always downward sloping because resources are limited. Resources are limited, comma, therefore more units of one commodity can be produced only by sacrificing extra units of other commodity. आई होप यू गेट द पॉइंट. रिसोर्सेज लिमिटेड है, तो अगर मैं एक को ज्यादा प्रोड्यूस करूंगा तो दूसरे को सैक्रिफाइस करना ही पड़ेगा. तो इसका मतलब कर्व जो है वो डाउनवर्ड स्लोपिंग होगा हमेशा. ऑलराइट, आई प्रोड्यूस मोर ऑफ वन, आई हैव टू लीव द अदर. ओके, देन यू राइट द सेकेंड पॉइंट. PPC is concave to the origin, concave to the origin. I can believe you visualize this. Concave to the origin. So is concave to the origin because marginal opportunity cost is rising. Full stop. If marginal opportunity cost falls, then PPC is convex to the origin. This shape, I hope you can understand this. Convex to the origin, and if marginal opportunity cost is constant, then PPC is a straight line. All right, I hope we are all okay on this. अब एक बात और मैं बोलता हूं, I hope you would agree to that too. If I claim, suppose I take my PPC again, say cloth and food, and I draw this PPC, and suppose I mark a point or few points like these, A, B, C, and I claim that any point, this is the third thing that I'm making you write, any point on the PPC represents full and most efficient utilization of resources. I hope you would agree. अगर मैं पीपीसी पर हूं, मतलब मैंने अपने सारे रिसोर्स यूज कर रखे हैं और उन रिसोर्सेस को बेस्ट तरीके से यूज किया होगा, तो ही अपने मैक्सिमम पोटेंशियल पे हूं. I'm just repeating myself in English. If I am on PPC, then I am on my maximum potential. How do I reach my maximum potential? I should be using all my resources and I should be using them in the most efficient manner. Only then I can reach my maximum potential. You understand that? So again, from exams point of view, what do we have to remember? That if an economy is on its PPC, then it is using all its resources in the most efficient manner. अगर ये बात सच है, तो इसका परवर्स भी ट्रू होना चाहिए, the other way around. That is, if I take a point K and I draw it and I say any point, let's call this 4, any point inside the PPC shows underutilization or inefficient utilization of resources. All points inside the PPC or any point inside the PPC shows underutilization or inefficient utilization of resources, isn't it? अगर मैं PPC के नीचे हूं, it means I am not at my maximum potential. So when is it that I will not be at my maximum potential? When I am either underutilizing the resource or I am inefficiently utilizing them. You understand that? So, for example, if a labor can work 8 hours and I am employing them for only 4 hours, then that is underutilization. Or, for example, if somebody is trained as a chemical engineer and I am using them in software, that's inefficient utilization. You understand that? तो अगर एक इकोनॉमी अपने रिसोर्सेज को ठीक से allocate नहीं किए, then they will find themselves below their PPC. Are you clear on that? Okay. Now, one more last question on this topic. There is a Russia-Ukraine war happening. They are bombarding each other, destroying their building, and their people are being killed. Will that keep their production possibility curve at the same point, or will it shift? Which side? Leftward, downwards? Isn't it? Because when I am killing people and when I am destroying building, I am reducing the capacity to produce. And any reduction in capacity to produce will mean that my ability to produce both of these will fall. You with me on this? All right. So I'm just putting it further. I'm saying then, let's say 5. Any activity which reduces resources or worsens technology that is reduces capacity to produce will shift PPC downwards to the left. You know, something like this. So if my capacity to produce falls because of fall in reduced resources or due to a worsening of technology, my PPC shifts to the left, downwards. Some examples of such situation can be, say, if there is a war or there is a natural calamity like an earthquake or there is a pandemic like a COVID pandemic. All these can be typical examples of how PPC can shift downwards or shift to the left. All right, how PPC can shift downwards or shift to the left. All right. Then the other way around should also hold true. That is, any activity which increases resources or improves technology can shift PPC upwards to the right. Can shift PPC upwards to the right. कोई भी चीज जो आपके टेक्नोलॉजी को अच्छी कर दे या आपके रिसोर्सेस को बढ़ा दे, जैसे आपके देश में एक तेल का नया कुआं मिल गया तो पीपीसी राइटवर्ड शिफ्ट कर जाएगा. ऑलराइट, दैट इज द आइडिया दैट एनी एक्टिविटी दैट इंप्रूव्स, इफ आई ट्रेन माय वर्कर्स बेटर, पहले कम पढ़े लिखे थे अभी ज्यादा पढ़ा लिखा दिए तो देन अगेन माय पीपीसी शिफ्ट्स टू द राइट बिकॉज द कैपेसिटी टू प्रोड्यूस बिकम्स मोर. So anything that increases the capacity to produce will shift PPC to the right. So new resources or development of technology will shift it to the right. Again, from exams point of view, just remember these features. Number one, PPC is downward sloping because resources are limited. So you cannot produce more of one commodity without sacrificing the other. Number two, PPC is concave to the origin because a marginal opportunity cost is rising. If marginal opportunity cost is falling, then PPC will be convex, and if it is constant, PPC will be a straight line. All points on the PPC represent full and most efficient utilization of resource. And all points below the PPC will represent underutilization or inefficient utilization of resource. And if there is any activity which increases my capacity to produce, improvement in technology, increase in resource, it shifts PPC to the right. And if anything reduces that capacity, then it shifts it downwards to the left. By chance they ask you these statements, true and false, or how many are correct, you'll be able to sort it out certainly? Perfect. Now you just give a heading. आप आज के लिए आराम कर सकते हैं. पहले एक दो क्लासेस में आपको बहुत आराम देता हूं. धीरे धीरे आपका आराम कम होगा और एंड में तो आप सोच भी नहीं सकते मैं क्या करूंगा. बट एनीवेज, सो यू टेक दिस. एक बात का आप ध्यान रखेंगे, जो भी लोग बिना रिवाइज किए कल की क्लास में ये सब आए, उनके लिए नर्क की कढ़ाई की अलग से व्यवस्था की है मैंने. Alright? So do make sure you sit with it, revise it, see it a couple of times, then come over. It will make things easier for you as we go ahead. Alright? So you just give a heading. You write theory of demand. Theory of demand. And we will begin talking from the theory of demand as I see you tomorrow, 8 o'clock again. Alright? Thanks a lot. I'll see you tomorrow then. Bye-bye. And thank you everybody online. I see you tomorrow, 8 o'clock again. Thank you.